Chapter 3359. Lu Ming rejected the beast's surrender. These interstellar pirates had committed all kinds of crimes. Their hands were stained with blood. None of them were innocent and deserved to be killed. Moreover, killing these pirates would give him merit points. Why would Lu Ming let them go? Lu Ming gave the order for the entire army to attack. Kill! The battle cries were like a tsunami. Lu Ming's battleships flew out one after another and attacked the pirates' battleships. Yuan Tsong had also made his move. With a punch, the beasts' huge bodies exploded into pieces. Blood splattered across the starry sky. After killing the beasts, dense runes appeared on Yuan Tsong's body. It was a teleportation array. Divine Lord Realm powerhouses were all able to carve a transmission grand array on their bodies and could directly carry out transmission. With a swoosh, Yuan Tsong's figure disappeared. In the next moment, he appeared behind the interstellar pirates' battleships and blocked their escape route. Destroy them! Yuan Tsong shouted coldly and continuously punched with both fists. Huge fist prints blasted towards the battleships. Every time a fist print crushed a battleship would explode. In the blink of an eye, more than 20 battleships exploded. Yuan Tsong, have mercy. Only kill the pirates. Don't destroy the battleships. Lu Ming hurriedly transmitted his voice to Yuan Kong. Each of these battleships was at least a few 100,000 miles long. The bigger ones were millions of miles long. Countless materials and resources were needed to build one. It would be a pity to destroy it just like that. Lu Ming felt the pinch. If he wanted to develop in the future, these battleships would be useful. Yuan Tsong nodded and stopped being so violent. He only blocked the battleships and did not let them escape. After a while, Lu Ming led the army over and surrounded the battleships. Kill them! Lu Ming waved his hand and a large number of experts flew out of the battleships and charged into the enemy's battleships. They broke through the battleships' defenses and rushed in. A huge battle began inside the battleships. After being killed by Yuan Tsong, many experts from the 4 pirate crews died in battle. Their strength was greatly reduced. On Lu Ming's side, there were many experts. There were more than 10 divine lords from the Nether Ape fighting clan that Lu Ming had brought with him. In addition to the experts from the Lufeng Marquis residence and the other generals' residences, there were more than 20 divine lords. They had completely suppressed the interstellar pirates. Among the interstellar pirates, every battleship had an intense battle. However, Lu Ming's side had the upper hand. The ape did not continue to attack. He just stood in the starry sky, his eyes like lightning, as if he was scanning something. You want to leave? Come out. Suddenly, Yuan Tsong let out a loud roar and punched out at a certain spot in the air. The void began to tremble violently as a huge explosion occurred. It was an interstellar pirate with runes all over his body. Clearly, he was an interstellar pirate at the Divine Lord realm. He had wanted to activate the teleportation array on his body to escape but had been forced out by Yuan Kong. At this moment, the interstellar pirate's face was filled with terror. He spat out large mouthfuls of blood and retreated rapidly. However, in front of the ape, he was as weak as a baby. Yuan Tsong's fist energy exploded and killed the Divine Lord interstellar pirate. After killing the interstellar pirate, Yuan Tsong continued to scan the surroundings. He was guarding this place to prevent the interstellar pirates from escaping. Soon after, Yuan Tsong attacked again. He punched the void and killed another interstellar pirate of the interstellar pirates who wanted to escape. There was no doubt about the outcome of this battle with the help of a terrifying existence like Yuan Kong. In front of such an existence, the number of people was meaningless. The outcome was already decided. The battle lasted for half a day. Half a day later, the battle between the battleships slowly came to a stop. Most of the interstellar pirates had been killed. Only a small number of them were still putting up a fight. However, it did not affect the overall situation. After another half a day, all the battleships calmed down. The governors and divine lords of the various prefectures came to report the news to Lu Ming. They were destroyed. The 4 interstellar pirate crews were all destroyed in this battle. The governors of the various prefectures were shocked. The 4 interstellar pirate crews had dominated the heavenly chaos starfield for countless years. No one had expected that they would all be annihilated this time. Of course, this was also because the 4 interstellar pirate crews had joined forces to attack. That was why Lu Ming had such an opportunity. In the past, the 4 interstellar pirate crews had roamed everywhere and did not have a fixed residence. Even if stronger overlords came, it would be difficult to destroy them. That was also the reason why the 4 interstellar pirate crews could survive for so long. Governor, we caught a few barbarians. At this time, a few Dark Ape Battle Tribe members came with a few burly creatures in their hands. Lu Ming had seen these creatures in the Black Jade gold mine before. They were the barbarians who had been fighting against the Taishu dynasty all year round. Barbarians? Lu Ming's expression changed. He was somewhat shocked. Why would the barbarians be in the interstellar pirate cruise battleships? This time, the 4 interstellar pirate crews suddenly joined forces to attack the prefectures of the Taishu dynasty, and the 4 leaders' cultivation levels have broken through. Is it the barbarians behind this? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. This was very likely. Otherwise, it would be difficult to explain all of this. This time, is it the barbarians who pushed the interstellar pirates to attack us? Lu Ming glanced at the barbarians and asked. Yes, so what if you know? Let me tell you, the Taishu dynasty will be destroyed by the barbarians sooner or later. You can wait for your death. One of the barbarians said coldly and looked at Lu Ming ferociously. Just as I thought. Lu Ming's eyes moved. What was the barbarians' purpose in doing this? Governor, what should we do with these barbarians? The Dark Ape Battle Tribe member asked. Of course, we'll kill them. Lu Ming waved his hand. After killing the barbarians, they began to count the casualties on the battlefield. Although they had killed all the interstellar pirates in the battle just now, they had also suffered some casualties. However, it was still within Lu Ming's range of acceptance. The Dark Ape Battle Tribe did not suffer any losses. Most of the casualties were from the other prefectures. After tidying up, they boarded the battleship and returned to the Hidden Dragon Star. After that, Lu Ming began to merge with the other prefectures. Some of the core elites of the various prefectures were sent to the Hidden Dragon Star. Of course, they also had to send people to guard the planets that they had conquered. After this battle, Lu Ming's strength skyrocketed. More than half of the Heavenly Chaos Starfield's territory was occupied by Lu Ming. The number of elites under his command had also increased. As he consolidated the forces under his command, he sent people to the Taishu sacred capital to report this merit. 2 months later, the order from the military council was issued. Lu Ming had made a great contribution this time. He had wiped out the 4 interstellar pirates. His merit was enough to upgrade the soldier's residence to the general's residence and appoint Lu Ming as the Hidden Dragon General. After upgrading the soldier's residence to the general's residence, Lu Ming could openly recruit people. Chapter 3360. Before Lu Ming started to recruit people, he had selected a group of experts to cultivate under the primordial idol statue. As soon as these experts started cultivating, they were shocked by the effects of the primordial idol statue. After they finished cultivating, the news about the primordial idol statue naturally spread. Not only in the Heaven Chaos Starfield, but also in the surrounding starfields, everyone knew that the Hidden Dragon General's residence had a primordial idol statue with mysterious effects. Cultivating under the primordial idol statue was extremely effective. When the news of the hidden dragon general's residence's recruitment spread, a large number of people naturally came to join them. Of course, those who came to join couldn't make others swear on their life source. That wasn't realistic. Even if the primordial idol statue attracted them, not many people would join them. Of course, those who wanted to join had to be tested by the formation set up by the Blue Merchant. This was to prevent Lu Ming's enemies from sending spies to join them. For example, the Imperial Advisor's residence and the Lan family would most likely send people to infiltrate the hidden dragon general's residence. With this formation, they could eliminate those with ulterior motives. At the same time, Lu Ming asked his subordinates if they knew any experts and recommended them to him. In fact, in the Heaven Chaos Starfield, apart from the mansion masters, most of the experts who joined the mansion were independent cultivators or had small factions behind them. Naturally, these people knew many independent cultivators. After these people's introductions, many experts came to join Lu Ming. Of course, they mainly came for the primordial idol statue. It was very difficult for these independent cultivators or people from small factions to have a mysterious primordial idol statue to cultivate. When they heard that Lu Ming had a mysterious primordial idol statue, many experts were tempted. Time passed quickly and 2 years passed. In these 2 years, Lu Ming had recruited many experts. Even 7 or 8 divine emperors had joined him. In this way, apart from the Dark Ape Battle Tribe, Lu Ming had more than 20 divine emperors under his command. This was an extremely powerful force. Many powerful marquis mansions only had this number of divine emperors. This was the benefit of being promoted to a general's residence. If it was only a soldier's residence, many experts wouldn't join him. They would think that there was no future. If it was promoted to a marquis mansion, with the promotion of the primordial idol statue, there would be more experts joining him. Everything went smoothly. Lu Ming's strength was increasing. These were all forces that he had developed under his control and listened to his orders. There was also another piece of good news. Wan Shen had broken through. Wan Shen's original cultivation was Peak God King. After tempering himself outside during this period of time, he directly broke through to the Divine Lord realm. Myriad God strength was already extremely terrifying to begin with. Now that he broke through to the Divine Lord realm, it was unknown just how strong his combat strength was. Xiaofan is going to evolve too. Dragon Emperor City. In a courtyard. Lu Ming looked at a huge metal ball in front of him and revealed a smile. After annihilating the 4 major pirate groups and subduing the other prefectures, Lu Ming had too many resources under his control. During this period of time, Xiaofan was still the happiest. He could eat all kinds of high-level divine artifacts as he pleased. Was it? Half a month later. The metal ball emitted a powerful aura. Then it wriggled and slowly shrank. Xiaofan had successfully evolved. Its cultivation had reached the 7th level of the God King realm. I want to eat, Xiaofan's mouth opened and closed as it stared at Lu Ming. You'll eat me until I'm poor. Lu Ming jokingly scolded. Then he waved his hand and a large pile of divine artifacts flew toward Xiaofan. They were all superior 7th level divine artifacts and above. Xiaofan immediately stretched out its tentacles and grabbed these divine artifacts. It began to chew on them with relish. Take your time eating. I'm going to cultivate. Lu Ming smiled and then went to cultivate under the primordial idol statue. Many figures sat cross-legged around the primordial idol statue, comprehending. Of course, not everyone could cultivate under the primordial idol statue. Lu Ming had set a rule. Only those who had accumulated a certain amount of merit could cultivate here. There was also a time limit. This was to let the subordinates work. Otherwise, what was the point of Lu Ming recruiting these people if they cultivated here every day and did not work? Time passed quickly. A few more years passed. My overlord spear force has reached the peak of the second awakening. Unfortunately, I still can't break through. Lu Ming ended his cultivation and frowned in contemplation. The primordial idol statue's effect was indeed amazing. Lu Ming had improved rapidly over the years, but he had not made any major breakthroughs. For example, he had awakened a new origin secret art or increased the number of awakenings of his origin divine power factor. Currently, only the sovereign divine power had awakened 3 times among the 11 divine powers. The other 10 were still at the second awakening. However, the overlord spear force had reached the limit of the second awakening. It was too difficult to break through the third awakening. Lu Ming had not made any breakthroughs. Looks like I need to find an opportunity to train. Lu Ming fell into deep thought. Ever since he came to the Heavenly Chaos Star region, Lu Ming rarely made a move himself. He had always left it to his subordinates. If he did not make a move, he would not be able to train himself. He would not be able to get any stimulation in his cultivation. Lu Ming was the kind of person who preferred killing and honing himself. Only through killing and honing himself could his potential be unleashed completely. Cultivating peacefully and steadily was not suitable for him. He planned to cultivate for a while longer. If the Overlord Spear Force still could not break through, he would go out to train himself. However, a few days later, a piece of news came that shocked many people. Not long ago, the barbarian tribe suddenly launched a large-scale attack on the borders of the Taishu dynasty. This time, the barbarian tribe had gathered a large amount of military power and launched an attack with overwhelming force. The Taishu Holy Dynasty was forced to retreat. In just half a month, the barbarian tribe had conquered an entire galaxy. Moreover, the attack did not stop. This shocked the upper echelons of the Taishu dynasty. At the borders of the Taishu dynasty, the major legions were on high alert and temporarily blocked the barbarian tribe's attack. At the same time, the Grand Council issued an order to gather all the forces at the border of the star regions to the battlefield and fight the barbarian tribe together. The Heavenly Chaos Star region was a star region at the border of the Taishu dynasty and the barbarian tribe. Naturally, it was also summoned. The Grand Council issued an order for Lu Ming to send a large army to report to the 8th barbarian tribe. Battlefield? Perfect. Lu Ming whispered, his eyes bright. He was planning to go out to train himself. Now that he was going to the battlefield, it was exactly what Lu Ming wanted. Not long after, Lu Ming led a group of people to the 8th barbarian tribe. This time, Lu Ming brought along more than 10 Divine Lord Realm experts. As for Divine King Realm experts, there were a total of 5,000 people. In addition, Wan Shen and Blue Merchant followed Lu Ming. Autumn Moon stayed on the Hidden Dragon Star to cultivate in peace. Autumn Moon received the inheritance of the Divine Eye Lord of Heaven. She was the opposite of Lu Ming. She did not need to train. As long as she cultivated in peace, she could continue to break through. Chapter 3361. This time, Lu Ming did not bring Yuan Tsong with him. Yuan Tsong was too strong. If he brought him along, he would attract the attention of others, especially the imperial advisor's residents and the crown prince. Besides, if he brought Yuan Tsong with him, Lu Ming would not be able to train himself. The border between the Taishu dynasty and the barbarian race had been warring all year round. Therefore, the Taishu dynasty had set up a large army here. There were a total of 13 armies, known as the 13 Barbarian Annihilation Armies. Lu Ming was going to the 8th Barbarian Annihilation Army. How spectacular! When they arrived at the headquarters of the 8th Barbarian Annihilation Army, Lu Ming was stunned. In the starry sky, there were many huge warships floating in the air. There was no end in sight. No one knew how many warships there were. Most importantly, these warships were too huge. In the Wind Marquis residence or the four pirate groups, the largest warship was 1,000,000 miles long. However, there were no such warships here. The smallest warship was a few million miles long. There were even warships that were a few 100,000,000 miles long. Those warships that were a few million miles long were like ants in front of an elephant. They could not be compared at all. Some of the largest warships were as big as some small planets. Countless of these warships were floating in the starry sky, forming a terrifying aura. Those who were not mentally strong would be suppressed by this aura from afar. They would not even be able to use 20% of their strength. This must be the 8th Barbarian Annihilation Army. How terrifying! Lu Ming exclaimed in his heart. Compared to the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army, the army under his control was like a candle flame compared to the bright moon. The difference was too great. It was unknown how many experts there were in this army. This was only the 8th Barbarian Annihilation Army. There were 13 such armies at the border between the Taishu dynasty and the barbarian race. One could imagine how terrifying the strength of the Taishu dynasty was. You are from the Hidden Dragon residence, right? Follow me. At this moment, a group of armored soldiers flew over. Lu Ming nodded and followed the armored soldiers to a warship that was a few million miles long. He arranged a place for them to stay. You can rest here first. If there is a mission, someone will inform you. The leader of the armored soldiers said. Many thanks. Lu Ming cupped his fists. The armored soldier nodded and left. Next, they stayed here and waited quietly. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. On this day, a soldier from the Iron Army came to inform Lu Ming that he had a mission. Lu Ming followed the soldier to a grand hall on a battleship that was over 100 million miles long. Tables and chairs were placed on both sides of the hall. At this moment, it was already full of people. At the top of the hall sat a burly man in iron armor. He was tall and sturdy, and in the middle of his head, there was a pitch-black horn. Almost everyone is here. Let me introduce myself. My name is Shi Huang, and I'm currently the right-wing general of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army. The burly man introduced himself. Everyone was startled. The general of the right wing of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army was an incredible position. He could be said to be the top figure of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army. His strength was unfathomable. Greetings, General. The people in the 2 rows of seats stood up and cupped their fists in salute. There's no need to stand on ceremony, please take a seat. Shi Huang raised his hand, and everyone sat down. Everyone here is the governor of the various prefectures that have been gathered this time. This time, I hope that you will cooperate with the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army. Shi Huang said. Of course. Rest assured, General. Everyone spoke one after another. Normally, the major prefectures at the border would send people to join the army and fight against the barbarian race. Not only could they train themselves, but they could also accumulate merits, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Therefore, no one would refuse. This time, the various prefectures also agreed to this gathering. Okay, now let's talk about the mission. Speaking of this, Shi Huang took out a jade talisman. The jade talisman shone, and a huge pattern floated in the air. The pattern was a starry sky. Huge battleships appeared in the starry sky. The shape of these battleships was somewhat different from the battleships of the Taishu dynasty. There were patterns of savage beasts carved on them. Barbarian race battleships. Someone said. Yes, you should already know that these are the barbarian race battleships. Some time ago, the barbarian race suddenly launched an attack. We were a little caught off guard and were forced to retreat. The barbarian race battleships have already occupied 1 star sector. This fleet of barbarian race battleships is heading to another star sector, preparing to attack. Our next mission is to destroy this fleet of barbarian race battleships. Shi Huang said. Is it that kind of formation? At this time, Lu Ming thought to himself. The Taishu dynasty had probably set up a large number of formations in the starry sky at the border of the universe that could project images of the starry sky. It was just like the array that Lan Shang had set up previously. The few killers who wanted to kill Lu Ming had been discovered in advance. Obviously, the Taishu dynasty had also set up this kind of formation in the starry sky. Otherwise, the starry sky was too vast. How could they monitor the other party's movements? They relied on this kind of formation. This fleet of barbarian race battleships is still half a month away from the next star sector. You set off today. I will send an army to support you. You must complete the mission. Shi Huang said. General, don't worry. We will destroy this fleet of barbarian race battleships. An old man said. This old man was a marquis of the Marquis Mansion and was very powerful. Okay, then go back and prepare. We will set off in 3 hours. Shi Huang said. Lu Ming and the others got up and went back to prepare. 3 hours later, in the starry sky outside the battleships, Lu Ming led his subordinates and gathered with the armies of the various mansions. There is a wormhole here. We can get there as soon as possible. Let's go. Shi Huang also sent an army to meet them. The people of the various mansions followed the army and came to a wormhole. Through the wormhole, they reached their destination very quickly. In just 2 days, they arrived at the Devil Void Star Zone. The Devil Void Star Zone was the star zone that the barbarian race would attack next. Then, they came to the border of the Devil Void Star Zone and lurked on a planet, waiting for the arrival of the barbarian race battleships. More than 10 days later. Rumble. In front of them, a fleet of barbarian race battleships sailed over. The battleships of the barbarian race were also very large. The smallest one was millions of miles long. There were dozens of battleships sailing over. Kill. With a loud roar, Lu Ming and the others rushed out and rushed toward the barbarian race battleships. People of the Taishu dynasty, kill them. Attack. As soon as Lu Ming and the others attacked, the barbarian race battleships discovered them. The battleships lit up and then beams of terrifying light blasted toward them. These beams of light were very powerful. Even ordinary divine emperors would be in danger if they were hit. Dodge! Lu Ming and the others shouted. Their bodies flashed and changed directions constantly to avoid the attacks of the beams of light. Chapter 3362. Although the battleship's attacks were powerful, the battleship itself was too large. It was naturally not agile and would be easily dodged. Lu Ming and company moved forward in a snake-like manner, constantly changing their positions to avoid the battleship's attacks. They were spread out, and each team had their eyes on a different warship. Not long after, Lu Ming and Wan Shen, as well as some of his experts, rushed to the vicinity of a battleship that was tens of millions of miles long. Kacha. When Lu Ming and company approached the battleship, many doors on the battleship opened and the figures of the barbarian tribe appeared. Kill them. The barbarian tribe roared and charged towards Lu Ming and company. Kill. Lu Ming shouted and took the lead, charging towards the barbarian tribe. Qiuqiu transformed into a suit of armor that covered his body, making him even stronger. He threw out a punch, sending out bolts of lightning. Immediately, 2 barbarian tribe members were struck by lightning and turned into charcoal. Trash of the Taishu dynasty, die. A 3-meter-tall, burly, hairy barbarian tribe member stared at Lu Ming and charged towards Lu Ming with a battle axe in hand. The battle axe slashed out, causing the void to tremble. The huge battle axe slashed towards Lu Ming with terrifying power. It was a Sir God. The Sir Gods of the barbarian tribe were terrifyingly strong and extremely belligerent. However, the Dark Ape fighting tribe members were even more belligerent. Beside him, an expert from the Dark Ape fighting tribe wielded a metal rod and charged forward, clashing with the Sir God of the barbarian tribe. At the same time, a figure flashed beside Lu Ming. It was Wan Shen. He was extremely fast and charged at the front, charging towards a large door. Kill him. At least a dozen barbarian tribe warriors blocked Wan Shen's path and attacked him with all sorts of attacks. However, Wan Shen's stone spear trembled and the attacks were instantly destroyed. The stone spear did not stop and crushed the barbarians. Your opponent is me. A Sir God of the barbarian tribe roared when he saw this scene and charged towards Wan Shen. Die. Wan Shen said indifferently. The stone spear pierced through the air and stabbed towards the Sir God of the barbarian tribe. Poof! The Sir God of the barbarian tribe wanted to attack, but his attack was instantly countered. The barbarian tribe members were shocked. The other barbarians were shocked. A divine lord had been killed in an instant. It was too terrifying. Impressive. Lu Ming sighed, but Sir God of the barbarian tribe of the same rank Sir God of the barbarian tribe. The barbarian tribe members of the barbarian tribe were killed barbarian tribe warriors, and killed barbarian god of the tribe. Killed barbarian tribe. Soon, he arrived at the gate, barbarian god of barbarian tribe. Barbarian. This time, he had brought more than a dozen Sir Gods with him. Their strength was comparable to some of the marquee manors. Among the manors that had come, their strength was considered superior. Our barbarian. As. Barbarian. As a result, there's barbarian as they entered. They killed their way in, leaving behind a large number of barbarian tribe warriors' corpses. In the end, the barbarian tribe members did not dare to resist and retreated. They gathered all the barbarian tribe members on the barbarian tribe battleship and prepared to fight Lu Ming. The other barbarian tribe battleships were also attacked. Dozens of barbarian tribe battleships were engaged in fierce battles. Lu Ming and the rest killed their way in and came to the control room of the barbarian tribe battleship. It was a huge hall that was tens of thousands of miles wide. All the barbarian tribe members were gathered here. Lu Ming and the rest were attacked as soon as they arrived. Kill them all. The barbarian tribe members roared and charged towards Lu Ming and the rest. There were tens of thousands of them, 10 times the number of Lu Ming and the rest. However, Lu Ming and the rest were not afraid and charged forward. The Sir God realm experts charged to the front and fought with the barbarian Sir Gods. The Divine King realm experts fought with each other. Sir God against Sir God and Divine King against Divine King. There were 2 battlefields. Long River of Spear Dao. Lu Ming shouted and swung the Overlord Spear. A long river of Spear Dao appeared and shrouded a group of barbarian tribe members. The barbarian tribe members screamed as their bodies were pierced by the spear radiance and died on the spot. In an instant, dozens of barbarian tribe members were killed by Lu Ming. Courting death. A burly barbarian tribe member charged towards Lu Ming with a saber in his hand. With a slash of his saber, the void trembled like water ripples. He was a peak Divine King. Combat Ancestor, at the side, a powerful figure from the Nether Ape fighting clan exclaimed in shock. He wanted to rush over to help Lu Ming. I can deal with your own enemies. Lu Ming shouted and swung the Overlord Spear. He activated the battle character art and quadrupled his combat strength to meet the attack. Boom! The 2 attacks collided. Lu Ming's body shook violently and he stepped back a few steps in the void. The barbarian tribe members were extremely strong and they usually had the upper hand in a battle of the same level. Kid, die for me. The peak Divine King of the barbarian tribe roared and waved his saber. He launched a torrential attack to kill Lu Ming. Lu Ming was fearless and met the attack head-on. He executed the Overlord spear art to the extreme and fought fiercely with his opponent. Of course, Lu Ming did not use his full strength. He did not use any of his origin-sourced secret techniques. Lu Ming's goal was to use his opponent to train himself and train the Overlord spear art. Moreover, Xiaofan turned into armor and wrapped Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming did not need to worry about his own defense. He only needed to attack with all his might. The two fought fiercely and the battle was extremely intense. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of blows. Yes, that's it. Lu Ming became more and more courageous as he fought. His fighting spirit grew stronger and stronger. He felt that the blood in his body was about to boil. Lu Ming would only have this feeling in a great battle. In this feeling, Lu Ming's comprehension of various divine skills and secret techniques would increase rapidly. Almost there, almost there. Lu Ming had a feeling that the Overlord spear art was about to break through. He was only one step away. However, at this moment, another Divine King Realm expert attacked Lu Ming. The two barbarian race experts joined hands to kill Lu Ming. Lu Ming's strength was too strong. He was only in the 5th Divine King Realm, but he already had such fighting strength. Without a doubt, he was a peerless genius. The Taishu dynasty had such a genius and it was a great disaster for the barbarian race. Of course, they had to get rid of him. Then I will kill you. There was a cold glint in Lu Ming's eyes and densely packed lightning was emitted from his body. It was Xiaofan's lightning. The lightning gathered towards the Overlord spear. As Lu Ming thrust his spear, the lightning burst out and enveloped the two barbarian race experts. At the same time, Lu Ming's eyes turned into two vortexes. It was the yin-yang godly pupils. Endless runes turned into terrifying threads and covered the two barbarian race experts. The two barbarian race experts roared and tried their best to resist. However, their bodies were still trembling. Chapter 3363. Now that Xiaofan had reached the 7th King God realm, the lightning was even more terrifying. Even a peak God King would feel numb if he was hit by it. Gate of Domination. Lu Ming took advantage of the opportunity and used the Gate of Domination to attack one of the barbarians. As for himself, he became one with his spear and turned into a dazzling spear light, attacking the other barbarian. Puff! The spear light pierced through the barbarian's defense. The barbarian roared and tried to dodge, but he was too slow. The spear light pierced through his chest, creating a big hole. Then, Lu Ming's left hand slashed out like a blade. Lu Ming unleashed the heavenly fiend golden body and his palms were harder than the divine saber. As his palm slashed out, blood spurted out and the barbarian's head flew up. A peak God King barbarian had fallen. On the other side, the Gate of Domination pressed down on the barbarian, making him dizzy and seeing stars. Lu Ming dashed out and tore with both hands, killing the barbarian. Many people around were shocked. The Dark Ape fighting tribe was not so bad. After all, many people knew that Lu Ming was talented and had unparalleled fighting strength. Those who had just joined Lu Ming were the most shocked. Before this, they had never seen Lu Ming fight. They only knew that Lu Ming had a group of powerful Dark Ape fighting tribe behind him. Now that they saw Lu Ming fight, they were 10 times more shocked than when they saw the Dark Ape fighting tribe. Because he was too strong. A 5th King God Realm cultivator could kill a peak God King. They had never heard of such a thing. Joining him might be the best decision I've made in my life. Many people could not help but have such a thought. Damn it! Kill him! The barbarians were also shocked. They roared and attacked Lu Ming. Your opponent is me. Kill! The Dark Ape fighting tribe and Lu Ming subordinates roared and blocked the barbarians. Although the number of people that Lu Ming brought with him this time was smaller, they were all elites with high cultivation levels. Although they had fewer people, their overall fighting strength was not weaker than the barbarians. The two sides were locked in a fierce battle. Kill. It was as if Lu Ming had entered a no-man's land, constantly charging and killing. He had Qiuqiu to protect him, so he didn't care about his own defense at all. He only needed to charge and attack with all his might. Every time he charged forward, a few barbarians would be killed by him. Besides the peak of the King God realm, the barbarians under the ninth sky of the King God realm were no match for Lu Ming. They were killed one after another. In the end, Lu Ming transformed into the blue-armored ancient god and became thousands of meters tall. With each punch, dozens of barbarians were killed. Lu Ming was nearly invincible in this battlefield below the Divine Lord level. No one could stop him. Not long after, the number of barbarians that Lu Ming had killed alone had reached thousands. This alarmed the barbarian tribe Divine Lords. Go kill that brat. This brat deserves to die. A few angry roars were heard. Then, a barbarian tribe Sir God dashed out and charged towards Lu Ming. However, a burly figure blocked his path. It was Wan Shen. Now, the warm-up is over. Wan Shen smiled, revealing his white teeth. Then, he punched out. With this punch, a gate of domination appeared and pressed down on his opponent. Break! The barbarian tribe Sir God roared and resisted with all his might. He wanted to break open the gate of domination. However, all his efforts were in vain. The gate of domination pressed down on him. The barbarian tribe Sir God screamed in pain and his body was torn apart. After killing the barbarian tribe Sir God, Wan Shen's body swayed and he charged towards the next barbarian tribe Sir God. He opened his mouth and a silver river appeared and swept out. The barbarian tribe Sir God was swept into the silver river. He didn't even have time to scream before he was killed. 3 Secret Techniques of Origin. Monster, another monster. The barbarians were so shocked that they could not be any more shocked. Lu Ming was already terrifying enough. Now that Wan Shen had appeared, it was equally terrifying. Boom! The void trembled violently as a burly brute race member stepped through the void, causing the void to explode with loud rumbling sounds. Kill! This barbarian tribe Sir God was shockingly powerful. He was a second-level Divine Lord. He roared and cleaved down at Wan Shen with his battle axe. This axe was sufficient to slay an ordinary first-level Divine Lord. A second-level Divine Lord was enough to kill a first-level Divine Lord. However, Wan Shen did not back down. He held his stone spear and met the attack head-on. Clang! The stone spear and the battle axe clashed, causing a terrifying explosion. However, the outcome was unexpected. Wan Shen did not move an inch. As for the second-level Divine Lord Barbarian Tribe Expert, he retreated frantically. How is this possible? The barbarian tribe Sir God roared, his face full of shock. In the Divine Lord realm, the difference between each level was shocking. A higher level could easily kill an existence of a lower level. To fight someone of a higher level was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. However, Wan Shen's strength was clearly above his. This is a second-level Divine Lord? That's all there is to it. Kill! Wan Shen said coldly. The aura on his body became even more violent. He took a step forward and charged towards his opponent. He opened his mouth and a silver river swept towards his opponent. At the same time, the gate of domination came crashing down on his opponent. The barbarian tribe expert was alarmed. He brandished his battle axe in an airtight manner. However, it was all in vain. When several Origins secret techniques landed, the second-level Divine Lord Barbarian Tribe Expert let out a blood-curdling scream as his flesh and blood splattered everywhere. When the light dissipated, only half of the barbarian tribe expert's body was left. The other half had been blasted to smithereens. A second-level Divine Lord powerhouse was virtually insta-killed too. Seeing this scene, the barbarian tribe Sir Gods were frightened out of their wits. Lu Ming and the other experts on his side seized the opportunity to attack consecutively. A few barbarians were careless and were seriously injured. After killing the second-level Divine Lord barbarian tribe expert, Wanshan did not stop. He charged towards the other barbarians. With his strength, there was almost no one who could withstand a single blow. Every time he attacked, someone would be killed. There were originally more than a dozen barbarian tribe Sir Gods. In an instant, 5 or 6 of them were killed by Wanshan. The remaining people were surrounded by Lu Ming's experts. Retreat! The barbarians were afraid. The warship's leader was a third-level Divine Lord expert. He had been fighting a third-level Divine Lord Dark Ape Battle Tribe expert previously. This time, among the experts that Lu Ming had brought, there was a third-level Divine Lord Dark Ape Battle Tribe expert. He was the strongest among the 11 Dark Ape Battle Tribe Sir Gods who had followed Lu Ming, other than Yuan Kong. The barbarian tribe Sir God roared and wanted to retreat. However, Wanshan had his eyes on him and launched a fierce attack. The result was shocking. The barbarian tribe expert was no match for Wanshan. He was completely suppressed by Wanshan. After barely withstanding dozens of blows, the barbarian tribe expert's glabella was pierced by Wanshan's stone spear and he was killed on the spot. The rest of the people were stunned. Lu Ming was also amazed. Wanshan's strength was too abnormal. Only Lu Ming knew that Wanshan had not used his full strength. In terms of Origin's secret techniques, Wanshan had mastered at least a dozen of them and had not used them. Once they were used, it would be even more terrifying. Chapter 33-64. The Sir God experts of the barbarian tribe were completely one-sided. Even their leader was killed. The rest of the barbarian tribe lost their morale. Retreat, retreat. Let's go. The rest of the barbarian tribe was in chaos. Some of them were defending while others had already retreated. As such, they were no match for Lu Ming and the rest. They were being suppressed by Lu Ming and the rest. Some of the Sir Gods under Lu Ming's command also freed themselves from the battle and killed the barbarian tribe members who were below the Sir God level. The scene was completely one-sided. Although the barbarian tribe had a large number of people, they were reaped like rice straws. Large numbers of barbarian tribe members were killed. The barbarian tribe members fled in all directions. Lu Ming and the rest chased after them. The battleship that was tens of millions of miles long was fighting everywhere. After a few hours, the battle on the battleship ended. Almost all of the barbarian tribe members were killed. Lu Ming returned to the control room. It would be great if I could keep such a huge battleship. Lu Ming muttered. The largest battleship he had was only 1,000,000 miles long. It was a few grades lower than this battleship. Lu Ming was tempted. According to the rules, he had to hand over the battleship. However, Lu Ming could not bear to do so. Unfortunately, the battleship was too big. His storage ring could not store such a battleship. Kid, the shocking feather scroll contains a huge space. It is more than enough to store such a large battleship. At this moment, Guemo transmitted his voice to Lu Ming. Shocking feather scroll. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Then let's retreat first. Lu Ming said. He then gathered everyone and exited the battleship, leaving it. At this moment, the battle on the other battleships was still going on. No one would notice them. Lu Ming's mind stirred and the shocking feather scroll flew out. A ray of light spread out and shrouded the battleship. Then, a shocking scene appeared. The huge battleship quickly shrunk. Finally, it turned into a ray of light and flew into the shocking feather scroll. Lu Ming's subordinates were stunned again. They felt that Lu Ming was really mysterious. Of course, they were secretly looking forward to it. The stronger and more mysterious Lu Ming was, the more promising he would be in the future. Since they had already submitted to Lu Ming, the stronger Lu Ming was, the happier they would be. "Let's go and help the other battleships," Lu Ming shouted. He led the group and charged toward another battleship that was tens of millions of miles long. Lu Ming would not attack the larger battleships. The larger the warship, the stronger the expert. Even with a great expert like Myriad God, Lu Ming was unwilling to take the risk. Fighting was still going on in the warship. The one who attacked this battleship was a powerful warrior from the Marquis household. They fought their way to the central control room and were met with fierce resistance from the barbarians. After a few hours of fighting, there was still no clear winner. There are so many experts in this warship. The Marquis of the Marquis Manor roared in his heart. He was a third-level divine monarch, but the other party also had a third-level divine monarch to block him. The remaining barbarians were not weaker than the experts he had brought with him. For a moment, they were in a tough battle. After a few hours of fighting, both sides suffered great losses. At this moment, Lu Ming led the others and charged over. "Who is it?" Seeing the people charging over, the Marquis household and the barbarians were shocked. They did not know whether they were friends or foes. But soon, they saw Lu Ming and the others. The barbarians were shocked. The Marquis household was delighted at first, but then he sighed in his heart. "It's a member of the general's household." The Marquis household shook his head. How many experts could a general's household have? Having 2 or 3 divine monarchs was already a big deal. It would not be of much use to the overall situation. Originally, he thought that it was another Marquis household or the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army. "You guys restrain them from the side." The Marquis household shouted and asked Lu Ming to restrain the barbarians from the side. With the strength of Lu Ming and the others, it was good enough that they could restrain the barbarians. Why go through so much trouble? Just kill them all. Lu Ming smiled. "Kill them? Young man, don't underestimate your enemies. You are very strong. You will be at a disadvantage," the Marquis household quickly warned. But before he could finish, he was stunned. Because Lu Ming and the others had already charged over. Moreover, the aura that they exuded made him speechless. There were more than a dozen divine monarchs. The divine kings below the divine monarchs were all elites. Once Lu Ming and the others attacked, the barbarians were suppressed. Especially Wan Shen, who killed 2 divine monarchs of the barbarians. Is this still the general's household? The Marquis household was stunned. Then, he became excited and led the others to attack fiercely. With the addition of Lu Ming and the others, the outcome of the battle was determined. Before long, the barbarians on the battleship were also annihilated. "It's a pity that there are people here. I can't take the battleship away," Lu Ming muttered. "Young man, thank you. How should I address you?" The Marquis household walked over and cupped his fists in gratitude. Now, he did not dare to look down on Lu Ming just because Lu Ming was from the general's household. "Lu Ming," Lu Ming said with a smile. "Lu Ming?" Lu Ming, the top scorer of the Great Void Imperial Academy. The Marquis household blurted out. Obviously, he had heard of Lu Ming's name. "That's me," Lu Ming said with a smile. "You are indeed a young hero. You deserve the title of top scorer." The Marquis household praised. "Marquis, you flatter me. Let's go out first," Lu Ming said. Then, they exited the battleship. As soon as they came out of the battleship, they heard a violent explosion in the distance. It was from the largest battleship. In front of the battleship, flames soared into the sky. A huge spear radiance rushed out of the battleship. A large part of the battleship that was hundreds of millions of miles long exploded. Boom! Then, there was another explosion in the area. The battleship continued to explode and debris flew in all directions. Then, Lu Ming saw two figures fighting fiercely. One was a general of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army and the other was a burly barbarian. The two of them fought fiercely. The starry sky shook and terrifying forces spread across hundreds of millions of miles. What terrifying strength! Lu Ming's pupils contracted. The two of them were extremely powerful and terrifying. Their combat strength was definitely above that of Wan Shen. They were definitely terrifying existences above the 4th level of the Divine Lord realm. The two of them were very fast. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of blows. However, the general of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army was still stronger. In fact, they had a plan for this attack. They were confident that they could annihilate the barbarian fleet. Otherwise, they would not have taken the risk to attack. The general of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army roared and the starry sky shook. His spear radiance rushed into the sky and suppressed the barbarian expert. After a few more blows, the barbarian was swept by the spear radiance. Half of his body exploded and he retreated quickly. Chapter 3365. The general of the barbarian tribe was severely injured. The general of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army launched a fierce attack, not giving the barbarian a chance to breathe. After a few more moves, the barbarian was killed in the starry sky. The general of the barbarian tribe was killed. Seeing this, Lu Ming and the others knew that the result of this battle was already decided. Let's go to the other battleships. Immediately, Lu Ming led the others to kill the other battleships. This was a good opportunity to gain merits, they could not miss it. Then, they went to a slightly bigger battleship and fought with the barbarians in it. Lu Ming was always in the front line, fighting with the peak Divine King Realm barbarians to train himself. The battle did not last for long. After the general of the barbarian tribe was killed, the general of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army joined the battle. The battle began to be one-sided. After half a day, they had gained the upper hand on all the battleships. Many of the barbarians on the battleships were almost killed. After another half a day, the battle on the battleships gradually subsided. The barbarians were destroyed and the Taishu dynasty had won a great victory. Well, we have won this battle. When the experts of various prefectures gathered again, the general announced. However, his eyes were like lightning, and he continued to say. However, this is just the vanguard of the barbarians. The main forces behind have not arrived yet. However, our main forces will be here soon. We will launch a counterattack and reclaim the star area that the barbarians have seized. The general announced. After that, they took the battleships and found a place to rest, waiting for the main forces to arrive. More than 10 days later, the main forces of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army arrived. At the same time, they brought news that the other armies of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army had finished their preparations and would launch an attack soon. Sure enough, a few days later, they launched an attack on the star area that was occupied by the barbarians. In the vast starry sky, the flames of war were raging and there were continuous battles. Lu Ming and the others followed the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army to fight against the barbarians. They were accumulating merits and training themselves. This was a protracted battle, it was impossible to determine the winner quickly. In the following days, a great battle would break out every few months. Time passed quickly. Lu Ming and the others had entered the battlefield for nearly 10 years. In these 10 years, Lu Ming and the others had experienced dozens of battles, big and small. Of course, there were also losses, but those who survived were all elites. They had all been tempered, and their fighting spirit was soaring. In the battle of life and death, some people even achieved breakthroughs. Some people's divine power of origin had a breakthrough, while some people's cultivation base had a breakthrough. Lu Ming had also gained a lot. After going through continuous battles and tempering, his overlord spear force finally had a breakthrough and reached the third awakening. Not only that, but the other type of divine power of Yin had also broken through and entered the third awakening. The 3 consecutive awakenings of 2 types of divine powers had undoubtedly made Lu Ming's strength even stronger. 3 awakenings were the foundation for entering the Divine Lord realm. Countless people were trapped at the peak Divine King realm, but they had yet to undergo their third awakening. Lu Ming was only at the 5th King God layer, but he had already awakened 3 kinds of God powers. If the other King God realm experts knew about this, they would be jealous. Of course, the one who improved the most was the Myriad Gods. Myriad Gods had boundless potential, and he was improving every day in the battle. His strength was getting stronger, and the power of his various secret techniques was also getting stronger. His cultivation base had even broken through 1 level, entering the 2nd King God layer. This speed was frightening. One should know that Myriad Gods had just broken through to the 1st King God layer not long ago. It had only been a little more than 10 years, and he had already broken through 1 level. This speed was unbelievable. After 10 years of fighting, the Taishu dynasty had invested a large number of troops, and finally gained the upper hand, reclaiming the star sector that the barbarian tribe had taken away. However, the Taishu dynasty did not intend to let it go just like that. They were increasing their troops, preparing to counterattack and attack the barbarian tribe's territory to teach them a lesson. On a resource planet, Lu Ming and the others were temporarily stationed there, waiting for orders. The divine power of Sun is still a little lacking. Lu Ming sat cross-legged on a piece of high ground. In the sky, a huge star was suspended, and wisps of light scattered, gathering toward Lu Ming and being absorbed by Lu Ming. This was the energy of the star, and it was extremely young. Lu Ming was using the star's energy to comprehend the divine power of Sunday. He had already awakened the divine power of Sun for the 3rd time, but he was still 1 step away from the divine power of Sunday. Lu Ming wanted to comprehend it as soon as possible. In this way, he would be able to unleash the strongest prowess of the secret skills of origin that corresponded to the 2 divine powers. Just as Lu Ming was comprehending seriously, he received a voice transmission from Blue Merchant. The general invites him in. Lu Ming moved and returned to the camp. He saw a burly man in armor. Lu Ming, the general invites you for a meeting. The burly man in armor said. Okay. Lu Ming nodded, not suspecting anything. It was normal for the general of the barbarian extermination army to invite them for a meeting. Lu Ming followed the burly man in armor and flew out. However, after flying for a while, Lu Ming felt that something was amiss. The place they were heading toward was getting more and more desolate. The general's camp doesn't seem to be in this direction, right? Lu Ming stopped and asked coldly. The general didn't summon you in the camp this time. He's somewhere else. The burly man in armor said. Is that so? Lu Ming muttered, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He charged toward the burly man in armor and shouted angrily, Who are you? Boom! He grabbed at the burly man in armor with his big hand. The burly man in armor was shocked. He let out a long roar, and his aura erupted as he threw a punch at Lu Ming. This burly man in armor had the cultivation of a peak divine king, but he was no match for Lu Ming. The 2 of them exchanged blows, and the burly man in armor's body shook violently. He kept retreating, and crashed into a mountain peak. Who sent you? Speak! Lu Ming shouted coldly. I think you've misunderstood. The general really sent me to look for you. The burly man in armor was still stubborn, but he kept retreating, trying to distance himself from Lu Ming. You still dare to quibble? Then I'll have to take you down and confront the general. Lu Ming shouted coldly. He stomped on the ground, and the ground cracked. Lu Ming was like a kunpeng, and he pounced on the burly man in armor. His speed was extremely shocking, and he caught up with the burly man in armor in an instant. The burly man in armor was helpless, and he tried his best to resist Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming's combat strength was much stronger than 10 years ago. An ordinary peak divine king was no match for him. The two of them exchanged a few blows, and the burly man in armor was sent flying. He crashed into a few mountains, and he coughed out blood. Say, who sent you? Lu Ming stepped on the void, and stood above the burly man in armor, and said coldly. The burly man in armor opened his mouth to speak. Suddenly, a sword light shot down from the sky, and slashed at the burly man in armor. Fast, it was an extremely fast sword light. Chapter 3366. A ray of sword light slashed towards the armored burly man at an unimaginable speed. Like a flying immortal, it illuminated the land. The armored burly man was horrified. Just as he was about to roar, the sword light arrived. Puchi. The armored burly man was split in half. Then, a figure wrapped in a black robe stepped down from the sky. This person was wrapped in a black robe and there was a strange energy shrouding his body. Lu Ming couldn't see his appearance at all. Even his spiritual consciousness couldn't penetrate. Who are you? Lu Ming narrowed his eyes and stared at the other party. He was in a defensive position. Although the other party had killed the armored burly man, Lu Ming didn't think that the other party was here to help him. This was because Lu Ming could clearly feel that the other party was emitting a faint murderous intent. This murderous intent was obviously targeted at him. The person who will kill you. The black-robed man spoke. His voice was hoarse and unpleasant, like the friction of metal. Clang! As soon as the other party finished speaking, the sound of a sword resounded through the sky. A terrifying ray of sword light slashed towards Lu Ming. Facing this ray of sword light, Lu Ming instinctively felt a strong sense of danger. Overlord God Spear. Lu Ming displayed the Overlord God Spear. With a thrust, a huge god of war appeared in the sky. It held a long spear and stabbed forward. However, the sword light slashed and there was an ear-piercing sound. Lu Ming's god of war was defeated and cut in half. Kill! A cold voice sounded. The black-robed man's figure flashed. He didn't see how he moved. In 2 flashes, he was in front of Lu Ming. The sword light was like lightning, slashing towards Lu Ming's forehead. Fast, ruthless, accurate. The power was so terrifying that a layer of goosebumps appeared all over Lu Ming's body. Gate of Domination. Lu Ming let out a low roar. The Gate of Domination appeared in front of him. Clang! The sword light slashed at the Gate of Gods, causing it to shake violently as if it was about to collapse. At the same time, a terrifying force acted on Lu Ming's body, and Lu Ming's body trembled as he quickly retreated. What terrifying strength! Lu Ming suppressed his roiling qi and blood, inwardly shocked. This black-robed man was terrifyingly powerful. It was not that the other party's cultivation was high. Lu Ming could clearly feel that the other party was not a divine lord, but a divine king. They were not even peak divine kings, but lower realms. However, the other party seemed to be intentionally hiding his cultivation base. He had utilized some sort of secret technique and his body was shrouded in a mysterious aura. Due to that, Lu Ming found it difficult to accurately determine his cultivation base. But he was definitely a terrifying figure. As soon as Lu Ming retreated, the other side continued to attack. Terrifying sword lights shot towards Lu Ming. Every sword light was comparable to a peak divine king's all-out attack. Lu Ming did not dare to be careless. He displayed the ancient god body, and his body rapidly enlarged, turning into a blue-armored ancient god. Boom! Lu Ming took a step forward and brandished the overlord god spear with one hand. A long river of spear Dao appeared, wanting to envelop the other party. At the same time, he controlled the gate of domination to suppress the other party. Moreover, as he unleashed these attacks, Lu Ming also displayed the yin-yang god pupil's secret technique. In the sky, two vortexes suddenly appeared. One was extremely cold, the other was scorching hot. Both exploded with destructive attacks, charging towards the black-robed man. The moment Lu Ming attacked, it was a storm-like attack. Once such an attack was unleashed, even a peak divine king would be killed. The black-robed man let out a long roar. Sword light soared into the sky. His entire body seemed to have transformed into a divine sword, as if he could split the universe and cut apart the starry sky. The sword light soared and split the long river of spear Dao into half. Then, it struck the gate of domination and sent it flying. A deep sword wound appeared on it. In the end, it collided with the destructive power of the yin-yang god pupil, causing a sky full of energy. Countless energy blasts bombarded the ground, and a huge explosion occurred on the resource planet. Pieces of the ground kept exploding, and magma soared into the sky. If this continued, it would not be long before this huge resource planet was destroyed in the battle between the two. What's going on? The battle here alarmed the military camp on the resource planet. Many people looked over, thinking that it was attacked by the barbarian tribe. Although the resource planet was very large, tens of thousands of times larger than many small kiliocosms, at their level, the battle caused too much of a commotion. When they collided with each other, the entire planet shook and was on the verge of destruction. Even the people on the other side of the planet could clearly feel it. Sword of Slaughter. As if he knew that he had alarmed the people in the military camp, the black-robed man used his ultimate move. Suddenly, a few terrifying sword lights soared into the sky, breaking through the starry sky. Each sword light contained a terrifying killing intent. This was the Sword of Slaughter, and its power was powerful and terrifying. The sword lights shrouded Lu Ming from different directions. Obviously, the black-robed man wanted to kill Lu Ming before the people in the military camp arrived. Boom! At this time, an even more terrifying aura erupted from Lu Ming's body. The majestic power was like the deep sea. Battle Formula, 5 times combat strength. From the beginning, Lu Ming had been constantly activating the battle formula, and finally, he succeeded in activating the battle formula to increase his combat strength by 5 times. 5 times combat strength, coupled with the blue-armored ancient god, made Lu Ming's strength extremely powerful. Boom! The Overlord spear swept across, and the void exploded, bringing with it a violent airflow that swept in all directions. Boom! 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 The Overlord spear and the Sword of Slaughter collided, and a terrifying explosion erupted. The planet kept exploding, and a small part of the resource planet directly exploded. Lu Ming and the black-robed man soared into the sky and rushed into space, facing each other from a distance. In the distance, a rainbow light rushed over at an astonishing speed. "You're lucky this time." The black-robed man's hoarse voice sounded, and then he turned into a sword light. His body flashed and disappeared without a trace. As soon as the black-robed man left, a few burly men in armor flew over and stood in the void, sweeping their eyes like lightning. They were the experts of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army. On this resource planet, in addition to Lu Ming's group, there were other families and the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army stationed there. Hidden Dragon General? What happened just now? A burly man in armor recognized Lu Ming. Lu Ming was the mansion master of a general's mansion. He could be called a mansion master or a general. "Someone attacked me just now," Lu Ming said. Someone attacked you? Was it a barbarian? The burly man in armor said. I don't know. The other party was wrapped in a black robe, and I couldn't see his appearance, but he shouldn't be a barbarian. Lu Ming said. Not a barbarian? The few generals in armor looked around and muttered in their hearts. If it wasn't a barbarian, could it be Lu Ming's enemy? If so, it wouldn't be good for them to intervene. How about this, we'll send someone to investigate immediately. Hidden Dragon General, you go back to the barracks first. A burly man in armor said. Then I'll have to trouble you. Lu Ming nodded and flew back to his barracks. Chapter 3367. Lu Ming flew back to the barracks with a frown. He was guessing who the black-robed man was. Or rather, who sent him. Could he be sent by the Crown Prince or the Grand Tutor? Lu Ming thought about it but felt that it wasn't the case. If it was the Crown Prince or the Grand Tutor, they would have sent a Sir God expert to kill him. However, the black-robed man was obviously not a Sir God but a king of gods. He was a peerless genius with terrifying combat power. Kid, he has the origin ancient word. Just then, the voice of the quantifier formula rang in Lu Ming's consciousness. What? He has the origin ancient word? Lu Ming was shocked. That's right. Although he didn't use the origin ancient word in the battle just now, there was still a fluctuation and I noticed it. The quantifier formula said. Origin ancient word, could it be him? There was a gleam in Lu Ming's eyes. In the Taishu dynasty, there was only one person who had the origin ancient word and that was Di Jiani. The more Lu Ming thought about it, the more he felt it was possible. In the battle just now, the other party seemed to be hiding it deliberately and didn't use the origin secret skill. He was obviously afraid that Lu Ming would recognize him. In that case, he should know Lu Ming. Moreover, among the supreme talents that Lu Ming knew, Di Jiani was the only one who had such terrifying strength who was below the Sir God level. Because Di Jiani had always been mysterious, Lu Ming had never seen Di Jiani use his full strength. Why does Di Jiani want to kill me? Lu Ming frowned. I reckon that he guessed that you have the origin ancient word. The quantifier formula said. Guessed that I have the origin ancient word? Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. That's right. Although the other origin ancient words aren't as sensitive as me and can sense it, the origin ancient word still has some characteristics. For example, the battle formula can continuously increase combat power. For example, I can store a large amount of divine power and have infinite divine power. The other party has the origin ancient word and knows the characteristics of the other origin ancient words. It's not hard to guess. The quantifying formula said. I see. Lu Ming suddenly understood. He had fought many battles, especially during the Great Void Royal Family Saint Academy. He had used the battle word formula and quantification word formula many times and Di Jiani had seen it all. Through these observations, Di Jiani might have guessed that Lu Ming had the origin ancient word. Hence, he wanted to kill him and steal the origin ancient word. If that was the case, everything made sense. Di Jiani had guessed that Lu Ming might have the origin ancient word and wanted to snatch it. Hence, he had bribed the burly man in armor to trick Lu Ming into coming out alone to kill Lu Ming. This was because when Lu Ming was in the barracks or in the Hidden Dragon Hall, there were too many experts around him. The other party couldn't do anything to him. However, the other party was also afraid that he might fail to kill Lu Ming, so he concealed his identity. He did not dare to use the origin ancient characters, nor did he use any secret techniques. However, the other party still miscalculated. He did not know that Lu Ming had the measure word art. Even if the other party did not activate the origin ancient character, the measure word art could still sense it. Di Jiani. There was a cold gleam in Lu Ming's eyes. Since you want to snatch my origin ancient word, the origin ancient word on your body is mine. Lu Ming muttered with cold murderous intent. However, although Lu Ming thought so, he did not dare to underestimate Di Jiani. Lu Ming was shocked by Di Jiani's power. It was unfathomable. Previously, Di Jiani had purposely concealed his power and most likely did not use his full power. If Di Jiani were to use his full power, it would be even more shocking. However, Lu Ming reckoned that Di Jiani's cultivation level should be above his. If they were at the same level, Jian Wushuang did not believe that Di Jiani would have such terrifying fighting power. As he thought about it, Lu Ming had already returned to the barracks. Lu Ming, what happened? When Lu Ming returned, Blue Merchant and the rest came out to welcome him and asked worriedly. Nothing much. There was a spy from the barbarian tribe who was killed. Lu Ming casually found an excuse so that Blue Merchant and the rest would not be worried. After that, the barbarian extermination army was mobilized to look for the man in the black robe. However, they naturally did not find anything. Lu Ming had expected that. Since the other party was Di Jiani, how could they find out anything? He reckoned that Di Jiani was now in the army freely. As expected, after a period of time, they did not find anything and the matter was left unsettled. In the starry sky, a large number of battleships were floating and it was a magnificent sight. This was the right wing of the 8th Barbarian Extermination Army and it was led by Shi Huang. On this day, there was an uninvited guest in Shi Huang's battleship. Brother Wu, why aren't you enjoying your life in the Imperial Tutor's mansion? Why are you here at the border? Shi Huang cupped his fists at an elder. The elder was the cousin of the Imperial Tutor. His name was Wu Yan and he was an important figure in the Imperial Tutor's mansion. Even though he was a border general, he had to be polite to him. The Imperial Tutor has something to ask you for help. Wu Yan smiled. If the Imperial Tutor has something to ask of me, I will do my best. What is it? Shi Huang asked curiously. The Hidden Dragon General's mansion in the Heaven Chaos Star region should be under your command now, right? Wu Yan said. That's right. Could it be related to the Hidden Dragon General's mansion? Shi Huang asked. That's right. Lu Ming in the Hidden Dragon Mansion has a feud with the Imperial Tutor. The Imperial Tutor wants you to find a chance to get rid of Lu Ming. Such a small matter shouldn't be difficult for you, right? Wu Yan said. Get rid of Lu Ming. Shi Huang's face changed and he said solemnly, this is not easy to do, General, don't worry. The Imperial Tutor will not forget you. If you have any requests, just let me know. How could Wu Yan not know what Shi Huang was thinking? He immediately reassured Wu Yan. Ha ha ha, since the Imperial Tutor is so straightforward, great. I will definitely help you. Shi Huang laughed. It was merely Lu Ming. In this war at the border, he had dozens of ways to kill Lu Ming. Moreover, he could curry favor with the preceptor. Why not? General is straightforward. Then I will go back and wait for your good news. Wu Yan smiled. He stood up and cupped his fists before leaving. Lu Ming, you have offended the Imperial Tutor. Don't blame me. Men, call Lu Ming from the Hidden Dragon Mansion here. Shi Huang immediately ordered someone to call Lu Ming. Lu Ming was cultivating. He was a little surprised when he heard someone calling for him again. However, Lu Ming didn't think too much when he saw the person. He knew this person. He was one of Shi Huang's guards. He shouldn't have been bribed. Lu Ming followed the person to a large hall. Shi Huang sat on the main seat. There were a few people beside him. They were all his confidants. Greetings, General. Lu Ming cupped his fists. Lu Ming, I have an important task for you this time. Shi Huang said. General, please tell me. Lu Ming said. Okay. Shi Huang nodded. He then waved his hand and a pattern appeared in the air. It was a huge planet. Chapter 3368. The Heavenly Rainbow Planet is a huge resource planet. At the same time, it's also an important place that needs someone to guard. Now, I'll give this task to the Hidden Dragon Hall. You guys will guard this planet for 10 years. What do you think? Shi Huang pointed at the planet in the pattern. Guard this planet? Lu Ming was slightly taken aback. They were in the middle of a war. If he was asked to guard this planet for a week, he wouldn't be able to get any credit. Fortunately, it was only 10 years, which wasn't too long. Lu Ming didn't care too much about it. He nodded and said, "Okay. When do we leave?" "We leave tomorrow," Shi Huang said. Lu Ming nodded and left. "General, is it appropriate to ask the Hidden Dragon Hall to guard this Heavenly Rainbow Planet? You know, there's a wormhole in the Heavenly Rainbow Planet." After Lu Ming left, one of Shi Huang's confidants asked in confusion. "That's right. The barbarian race has always wanted to take over the wormhole. I'm afraid that the Hidden Dragon Hall won't be able to defend it. They'll just die if they go," another person said. "I know that. After the Hidden Dragon Hall's people go over, we'll secretly deploy a large number of troops in the nearby space. When the barbarian race's people arrive, we'll catch them all in one fell swoop," Shi Huang said with a smile. "The other end of the wormhole is in the barbarian race's territory while the other end is in our territory. The barbarian race is afraid that we'll be heavily guarded, so they won't dare to send people through the wormhole directly. We're afraid of each other. The barbarian race wants to attack us and take over this wormhole. They'll definitely send a large number of troops. The Hidden Dragon Hall's people won't be able to stop them. Won't that be a dead end?" One of Shi Huang's confidants said. "If we want to kill the barbarian race, we'll have to make some sacrifices. The Hidden Dragon Hall is the bait that I've sent out to attract the barbarian race's experts." Everyone here was Shi Huang's confidants. Shi Huang didn't hide his intentions and spoke frankly. It was not true that he wanted Lu Ming to guard this planet, but he wanted Lu Ming to be the bait and die. In this way, not only would he be able to help the Imperial Advisor get rid of Lu Ming, but he would also be able to kill a group of barbarians and gain credit. The general is wise. A few of his confidants began to flatter him. After Lu Ming returned to the encampment, he passed down this mission. The next day, they set off for the Heavenly Rainbow Planet. Traveling through the wormhole was extremely fast. After a few days, they arrived at the Heavenly Rainbow Planet. The Heavenly Rainbow Planet was extremely large, and its name came from the heavenly rainbow fruit that was produced there. "Manor Lord Lu Ming, I'll leave this place to you from now on." The Heavenly Rainbow Planet had originally been guarded by a group of people. At this moment, the leader of this group had transferred the authority to Lu Ming. Thus, this group of people left the place. After Lu Ming took over, he began to make arrangements. First of all, he had to explore every corner of the planet so that it would be easier for him to set things up. Next, he had to set up the planet's defensive formation. This planet had originally been set up with a defensive formation that could defend the entire planet. However, after Blue Merchant's investigation, he felt that this formation was not perfect enough. In the following period of time, Blue Merchant led a few people who were proficient in formations and focused on perfecting this formation. Meanwhile, Lu Ming led the army and camped in a valley. Time passed day by day, and in the blink of an eye, a few months had passed. They had also explored the entire Heavenly Rainbow Planet. "Lu Ming, I've found something." On this day, Blue Merchant suddenly transmitted a message to Lu Ming, saying that he had found a strange place. Lu Ming immediately rushed over and saw Blue Merchant. "Lan Shu, what did you find?" Lu Ming asked. "Lu Ming, look at this lake," Blue Merchant pointed to a lake in front of them for Lu Ming to see. Lu Ming looked forward. There was a lake in front of him that was thousands of miles long and wide. The lake water was clear. Lu Ming looked at it for a long time, but he could not find anything strange. Lan Shu, what's strange about this lake? Lu Ming asked. This lake has been set up with a formation, an extremely powerful concealment formation. It seems to be hiding something. If I hadn't been perfecting this planet's defensive formation checking step by step, I'm afraid I wouldn't have found it so easily. Blue Merchant said. Concealment formation? Lu Ming was a little puzzled. According to Shi Huang, this was just an ordinary resource planet. Why would a concealment formation be set up to hide something? Blue Merchant, can you break it? Lu Ming asked. Yes, but it will take some time. Blue Merchant said. Alright, let's begin. Lu Ming nodded. Soon after, Blue Merchant stepped out and floated above the lake. The soul power between his eyebrows jumped, shining with rays of light. He waved his hands rapidly, sending out runes that landed on the lake. The lake was immediately suffused with light as runes appeared, forming a formation. There was indeed a concealment formation here. Immediately, Lu Ming transmitted his voice to Myriad God and the rest. Soon, Myriad God arrived with a group of experts. Lu Ming called for a group of experts as a precaution. He did not know what was hidden here. Blue Merchant's attainments in formations were very strong. Unfortunately, his stellar core had been destroyed, leaving him with only his soul power. It was difficult for him to crack the formation. It took him more than 2 months to crack the concealment formation on the lake. Once the formation was broken, a beam of light shot into the sky. Soon after, the lake water began to spin rapidly, forming a vortex. The water from the lake flowed into the whirlpool and disappeared without a trace, leaving behind only a pitch-black cave. What's hidden in this cave? Lu Ming frowned. He did not know why, but he had a bad feeling. He had heard that it was an ordinary resource planet, but there was a concealment formation here. Under the formation, there was a cave. This did not match the information he knew. Finally, Lu Ming decided to go down and take a look. He led Myriad God and a few Dark Ape Battle Race Divine Lord experts. Together with Blue Merchant, they flew towards the cave. They slowed down, not daring to go too fast for fear of danger. The cave was very deep. They flew all the way down, reaching a depth of tens of thousands of miles. Then, the cave continued forward. The journey was very peaceful. There was no danger, nor did they encounter any living beings. They followed the passage and flew for a while. At the end of the passage, a huge underground space appeared. In front of them, the space was constantly warping like a lake. In the warped space, there was a huge cave that led to an unknown place. This is a wormhole. Lu Ming was shocked. He recognized it at a glance. It was a wormhole. There was actually a wormhole here. In the Taishu dynasty, every wormhole was very precious. This was because a wormhole could instantly travel from one stellar domain to another. It was an extremely precious resource. Every wormhole had to be heavily guarded. But why was there no one guarding this place? Chapter 3369. From the previous concealment array, it could be seen that this place had been discovered long ago. It was impossible that no one had discovered it. However, there was no one guarding this place. There's actually a wormhole here, and it's even hidden by a concealment array. It seems that it's afraid of us discovering it. This isn't right. Lan Shang's brows knitted tightly. He also had a bad premonition. Let's go out first. Lu Ming immediately said. He felt that this matter wasn't simple. He had to go out and gather people to discuss it. At this moment, rumble. A loud rumbling sound came from outside, and the ground shook violently. "Not good, there's a big battle outside. Get out quickly!" Lu Ming shouted. They rushed out at full speed. Their speed was too fast. In a few breaths of time, they rushed out of this place and reached the surface. Rumble. A deafening sound came from high up in the sky. At this moment, the heavenly rainbow planet was emitting a dazzling light, forming a huge light shield that enveloped the entire planet. This was the planet's defensive array. After being perfected by Blue Merchant, its defensive power had increased by a lot. Lu Ming and the others saw burly figures appearing outside the light shield. Each figure was emitting a terrifying aura. It was incomparably domineering. These figures were attacking the planet's defensive array. Barbarian tribe. Lu Ming and the others were shocked. These figures were all barbarians. They were everywhere outside the starry sky. No one knew how many barbarians there were. Moreover, the aura emitted by some barbarians was too terrifying. Just the aura alone was enough to make the starry sky tremble. What a terrifying cultivation! Lu Ming and the others' faces were extremely ugly. The cultivation of some barbarians was simply terrifying. Even if they were far away, they could feel the terrifying pressure. They were definitely existences above the fourth layer Divine Lord realm. As for how high they were, they couldn't sense it at all. "Let's go!" Lu Ming and the others burst out at full speed and rushed to the camp. At this moment, the 5,000 or so subordinates that Lu Ming brought were all looking at the sky with pale faces. The strength of these barbarians was too strong. It wasn't something that they could fight against. They would probably be crushed in an instant. "Quick, break the planet's defensive array. This wormhole will be ours." Outside the sky, a barbarian shouted. Boom! Boom! More barbarians joined in the attack. Terrifying attacks fell on the light shield formed by the planet's defensive array, causing the light shield to tremble constantly. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before the defensive array. This was because Lan Shang had been perfecting and strengthening it during this period of time. Otherwise, it would have been broken through. Wormhole, they're here for the wormhole. Lu's expression. "Lu Ming, we have fallen into a trap and become sacrificial lambs," Lan Shang said solemnly. Lu Ming given Lu Ming's intelligence, he completely understood what Lan Shang was trying to say. He had been tricked by Shi Huang. Previously, there had been people guarding this place, and they had even set up a concealment formation. Shi Huang must have known that there was a wormhole here, and most likely also knew that the barbarian tribe coveted this wormhole, but he still sent him here. This was to send him to his death. There must be someone else behind this. Lu Ming gritted his teeth. He did not offend the wild rhino, so why did the wild rhino want to kill him? He must have been instructed by someone else. Lu Ming reckoned that it was either the crown prince or the state preceptor. As for Di Jiani and the other forces, they did not have the power to make Shi Huang do things. Rumble. The tremors in the sky became even more intense, and the great array continued to tremble. Break! A barbarian race powerhouse shouted, his voice shaking the starry sky. This was an extremely terrifying existence. His cultivation was absolutely at the fourth level Divine Lord realm and above. He held the battle axe in his hand and swung it at the light barrier. The light barrier shook violently, and a crack appeared on it. "Master, what should we do now?" Many people asked Lu Ming. Their faces were pale and they looked fearful. When the great array was broken, the army of the barbarian tribe would arrive, and only death would await them. "Go to the wormhole, enter the wormhole," Lu Ming shouted. There was no other way, and they could only take a gamble. The entire starry sky of the planet was surrounded by the barbarian tribe, and it was impossible to rush out. Moreover, the barbarian tribe's experts were too terrifying. Some experts might be able to kill them all with a slap. If they rushed out, they would not stand a chance. If they rushed towards the wormhole, they might stand a chance. Because Lu Ming did not know where the wormhole led to. What if it led to other places in the Taishu dynasty? Then they would be safe. This could be seen from the fact that the barbarian tribe had set up a concealment formation to hide the wormhole. It was possible. However, this time, Lu Ming had guessed wrong. Shi Huang had asked his men to set up a concealment formation not because the wormhole led to other places in the Taishu dynasty, but because he was afraid that Lu Ming would have a way out. It was because he was afraid that Lu Ming would discover the wormhole and become suspicious, and leave the heavenly rainbow planet early. Let's go! Lu Ming shouted and rushed towards the wormhole with his men. Fortunately, the place where they were stationed was not far from the wormhole. They were all Divine King experts, and they were extremely fast. In a few flashes, they arrived at the wormhole. Crack! Crack! At this moment, more and more cracks appeared on the light barrier, and they filled the sky. The defensive formation was about to break. Let's go! Lu Ming did not hesitate and rushed into the wormhole with his men. Soon, they arrived at the entrance of the wormhole. Let's go! Lu Ming was the first to enter, and the others followed closely behind. They rushed into the wormhole and disappeared. Just a few breaths after Lu Ming and the others entered the wormhole, the defensive formation of the heavenly rainbow planet was completely broken. As soon as the defensive formation was broken, the barbarians rushed in. Swoosh! Swoosh! A large group of barbarians came to the entrance of the wormhole. Those ants rushed into the wormhole. Should we go after them? A barbarian asked. There's no need to go after them. They will die if they enter the wormhole. Next, we have to guard the entrance of the wormhole. I think the Taishu dynasty will send people to attack this place. A barbarian leader said coldly, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. The other side led to the territory of the barbarians. If they rushed into the wormhole, they would die. In the distant starry sky of the heavenly rainbow planet, Shi Huang stood in the starry sky with his hands behind his back. His eyes flickered as if he was looking through the starry sky at the heavenly rainbow planet. Have you finally made your move? Lu Ming, leave in peace. I will avenge you. Shi Huang said indifferently with a cold smile on his face. Then, runes appeared on his body, and he disappeared in the next moment. Soon after, huge battleships appeared from all directions and rushed towards the heavenly rainbow planet. An earth-shattering battle broke out on the heavenly rainbow planet. However, all of this had nothing to do with Lu Ming and the others. Chapter 3370. After Lu Ming and the others entered the wormhole, they seemed to have traversed an endless distance in the blink of an eye. The next moment, they appeared on a flat piece of land. Behind them was another wormhole entrance. Where is this? Lu Ming looked around, sizing up the surroundings. In front of them were towering mountains that blocked their vision. They seemed to be in a col surrounded by mountains. However, they did not see anyone. Is this really somewhere in the Taishu dynasty? Lu Ming was overjoyed. But at this moment, extreme joy turned to sorrow, and a sudden change occurred. Behind them, the wormhole entrance suddenly filled with endless runes. These runes formed a large array that completely sealed the entrance of the wormhole. What's going on? Many of Lu Ming's subordinates were shocked. Ha ha ha, finally, some bastards from the Taishu dynasty are here. In the distant mountains, a loud laugh could be heard. Then, a powerful aura burst out, forming a strong pressure that pressed down on Lu Ming and the others. Then, burly figures rushed out from the mountains in all directions. Barbarians, someone roared in despair. Barbarians appeared from all directions. It was obvious that the wormhole did not lead to the Taishu dynasty at all, but to the territory of the barbarians. They had run to the lair of the barbarians. Damn it! Lu Ming roared, his expression extremely ugly. This time, they were really screwed and had fallen into a desperate situation. The wormhole behind them was sealed by the large array, so there was no way out. Moreover, even if they could retreat, they would die if they returned to the heavenly rainbow planet. It's a pity that there are only a few small fish. There's no big fish. Some barbarians glanced at Lu Ming and the others, then sighed softly and showed a look of pity. The cultivation level of Lu Ming and the rest was indeed not high. The strongest Dark Ape Fighting Clan member was only a third-level Divine Lord. These barbarians did not take them seriously. These barbarians were not in a hurry to attack. They were like cats catching mice, sizing up Lu Ming and the others. They are indeed a few small fries. Hurry up and destroy them. Open the formation. Who knows, we might be able to let some small fries in. Someone from the barbarian race said coldly. There's no need to use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. Why don't you leave these small fries to me? A square-faced berserker said, killing intent flashing in his eyes. That's fine too. Take your men and destroy them. It's not bad for us to watch the show. The other barbarians sneered. The barbarians here were also divided into different armies. All right, brothers, follow me and destroy them. The square-faced berserker shouted and led a group of berserkers to attack Lu Ming and the others. This group of barbarians numbered about 5,000, which was about the same as Lu Ming's group. However, the number of barbarian tribe experts was obviously more than Lu Ming's group. The auras of the barbarians at the front were extremely terrifying. Especially the square-faced berserker and the other two barbarians. Their auras were the most terrifying. They were all third-level Divine Lords. They could see that there was only one third-level Divine Lord in Lu Ming's group. They had 3 third-level Divine Lords and the number of other experts was also more than Lu Ming's group. It was more than enough to kill Lu Ming and the others. What should we do? Some of Lu Ming's men were pale. Only the Dark Ape Fighting Tribe stood around Lu Ming with a resolute gaze, revealing a strong fighting spirit. Protect the war ancestor and fight to the death with them. Fight to the death. The Dark Ape Fighting Tribe experts roared. If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. The square-faced berserker roared ferociously and chopped at Lu Ming with his axe. He could see that Lu Ming's group was led by Lu Ming. He wanted to kill Lu Ming directly. Don't even think about it. The Dark Ape Fighting Tribe third-level Divine Lord expert roared and waved his iron rod, charging at the square-faced berserker. Boom! The two of them clashed and a terrifying explosion erupted. Ah! At this moment, a shrill and horrified scream rang out. Many barbarians turned pale with fright when they saw it. They only saw a burly berserker had his heart pierced by a youth and was struggling madly there. This berserker was an expert who was not weaker than the square-faced berserker. His cultivation had reached third-level Divine Lord. But now, his heart was pierced and he was on the verge of death. This youth was naturally Wan Shen. Kill! Wan Shen roared. His long hair fluttered and he tore with all his might. The third-level Divine Lord Barbarian was directly torn apart. Blood splattered on the ground and he died on the spot. Ha! Then, Wan Shen roared and a silver river appeared, enveloping a large number of barbarians, including the third-level Divine Lord expert. Those barbarians screamed miserably. In an instant, thousands of barbarians were killed. But those who were enveloped by the silver river almost all died. Only that third-level Divine Lord Barbarian roared with all his might and rushed out desperately. But he was also covered in blood and was seriously injured. What awaited him was Wan Shen's stone spear. Poowork. The stone spear flew past and pierced through the head of this barbarian. The second third-level Divine Lord was dead. All of this happened in the time it took for sparks to fly off a piece of flint. It was so fast that many barbarians could not react. After killing these barbarians, Wanshan brought out the Gate of Sovereigns. In his Gate of Sovereigns, there was a terrifying black hole that spun continuously. Roar! A roar erupted from this black hole. It was like the roar of an ancient god, shaking heaven and earth. Large numbers of barbarians were directly shaken to death. Their bodies exploded, turning into a bloody mist. Now, Wanshan had already reached second-level Divine Lord. His combat power was even more terrifying. Even third-level Divine Lords could be insta-killed. Damn it, retreat! At this time, the square-faced barbarian finally reacted. After exchanging a blow with the third-level Divine Lord Dark Ape Fighting Tribe, his figure retreated frantically. The remaining barbarians also hurriedly retreated. Wanshan did not give chase. Instead, he stood in front of Lu Ming and company. His aura grew stronger and stronger, emanating an ancient and desolate aura. What terrifying strength! Even Lu Ming's subordinates, who had seen Wanshan in action many times, were still amazed. But soon, they fell into despair. Wanshan was strong, but his cultivation was too low. No matter how strong he was, he could not affect the overall situation. Just now, the barbarians had underestimated them and sent out a team. The truly terrifying existences had not made a move. Once they made a move, they would not have a chance. Damn it, D*MN trash, the square-faced barbarian roared angrily. But there was also fear in his eyes. If Wanshan had attacked him just now, he would have died without a doubt. What terrifying combat power! He has mastered 3 origin secret techniques. This person must be a peerless monster of the Taishu dynasty. We've caught a big fish this time. The other barbarians also looked at Wanshan in shock, including some terrifying existences. A person who had mastered so many origin secret techniques and was so freakishly strong, especially at such a young age. He had reached second-level Divine Lord. This was simply too monstrous. Chapter 3371. Kill, they must kill. Many barbarians looked at the myriad gods with murderous intent. Boom! Boom! A terrifying aura erupted as more barbarians stepped forward, pressing towards Lu Ming and the rest. The pressure was like a tsunami, pressing down on Lu Ming and the rest. Some of the weaker ones trembled and almost knelt down. The pressure was too great. Kill! Suddenly, a barbarian roared. Instantly, dozens of barbarians attacked. These dozens of barbarians were all in the Divine Lord realm. Among them, there was no lack of third-level Divine Lords or higher. They attacked indiscriminately. All kinds of attacks poured down on Lu Ming and the rest. This time, they would not give Lu Ming and the rest a chance. They would not underestimate them. A total of dozens of Divine Lord realm existences attacked. The scene was earth-shattering. It's over. Many people lamented. In the face of such an attack, they had no chance. Only death awaited them. Kid, it's over. Even Guemo let out such a sigh. Fight it out. Lu Ming roared. He took out the purple copper coffin and planned to open it regardless of the consequences. In the past, Lu Ming had only opened a crack and something terrifying had happened. If the purple copper coffin was completely opened, something shocking would definitely happen. Lu Ming did not know what would happen, but it was better than being killed by the barbarians. At the very least, he had to drag the barbarians down with him. Roar! At this moment, the myriad gods let out a terrifying roar. It was as though an ancient god was roaring. Finally, a stone clock flew out and rapidly expanded. It floated above Lu Ming and the rest. It scattered rays of light that enveloped Lu Ming and the rest. The attacks of dozens of barbarians were all blocked by the stone clock or the rays of light that fell from the stone clock. Dong! 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 The stone clock vibrated violently and let out a terrifying roar. However, those attacks were blocked. They were completely blocked and did not hit Lu Ming and the rest. However, Myriad God was not in a good condition either. His body trembled violently and dense bloody scars appeared on his skin. Blood kept flowing out of his mouth. After blocking so many terrifying attacks, one could imagine how much pressure Myriad God was under. He was severely injured. Wan Shen, Lu Ming shouted. This could not go on. Myriad God alone would not be able to withstand the other party's attacks. I'll block them first, then open a path and rush out, the Myriad God transmitted his voice to Lu Ming. Continue attacking, a barbarian shouted loudly, and continued to launch attacks. The attacks fell on the stone clock, and the stone clock started to vibrate even more violently. Cracks even started to appear on its surface. Myriad God coughed out large mouthfuls of blood as more bloody wounds appeared on his body. His body looked like it was about to crack apart. Roar! The eyes of the myriad gods were filled with unyielding will. With a loud roar, heaven and earth shook. There seemed to be flames burning on the myriad god's body. These flames kept twisting and turning into different figures. They were the figures of different primordial divine spirits. These figures looked illusory, but they were roaring along with the myriad god. The world boiled as though dozens of primordial divine spirits had crossed time and space to arrive. This strange phenomenon shocked the barbarians, and they were stunned for a moment. Sky-splitting sword. The myriad god roared, his long hair fluttering. A stone sword appeared in his hand, emitting an endless radiance. Swoosh! The stone sword turned into a sword light. It did not slash at the barbarians, but at the void. Space immediately rippled like water. Then, a pitch-black vortex appeared in the sky. This vortex spun crazily and eventually turned into a cave. This is a wormhole? Lu Ming was flabbergasted. He could not believe his eyes. The myriad god had used a stone sword to open a wormhole. This was simply inconceivable. Miracle, this is simply a miracle. Legend has it that during the incipient god era, a primordial divine spirit could open a wormhole with just a move of his body. This myriad god must have inherited the power of that primordial divine spirit. At this moment, even Bone Devil roared in disbelief. Wormhole, all the barbarians also roared in disbelief. Their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. They never would have dreamed that a person could forcefully open up a wormhole, and it was even done by a Divine Lord realm powerhouse. In the current primitive universe, there were people who could open wormholes. Some terrifying races that had undergone atavism could open wormholes in the universe when their cultivation reached a certain level. Legend had it that the spacetime spirit rats had terrifying geniuses who had undergone atavism. They had the power of primordial divine spirits. When their cultivation reached a certain level, they could open wormholes. However, it was impossible for a second-layer divine lord to do so. Run! I can't hold on for long. The myriad god roared at Lu Ming and the others. Go! Lu Ming shouted. He knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He couldn't hesitate any longer. Immediately, Lu Ming's subordinates rushed into the wormhole and disappeared. In the blink of an eye, only the Dark Ape fighting tribe, Lu Ming, and the others were left. War Ancestor, you go first. A Dark Ape fighting tribe member shouted. Let's go together. As Lu Ming roared, he rushed forward, bringing the myriad god, the Dark Ape fighting tribe members, and the Blue Merchant into the wormhole. When Lu Ming brought the myriad god into the wormhole, the stone clock that the myriad god had created collapsed. Chase! At this moment, the barbarians woke up from their daze. They roared and rushed toward the wormhole. However, when they got close to it, the wormhole began to twist. Retreat! The wormhole is about to collapse. A barbarian shouted in horror. However, it was too late. One of the barbarians couldn't retreat in time and was sucked into the energy of the wormhole's collapse. He was instantly reduced to dust. The energy of the wormhole's collapse was extremely terrifying. Even an ordinary divine lord would find it difficult to withstand. In the next moment, the wormhole disappeared completely. Damn it, the barbarians roared in indignation. This time, they had so many experts but they couldn't stop Lu Ming and the others. Instead, they had lost so many experts. It was a great humiliation. I wonder where they escaped to. That kid is only a second-level divine lord. It's a miracle that he could open a wormhole. However, the distance can't be too far. Moreover, it's difficult to control the direction. He might still be in our territory. Let's report the news and get the marshal to send people to chase after him. An old barbarian said coldly. Then, they reported the news to their superiors. After Lu Ming and the others stepped into the wormhole, they appeared on a planet in the next moment. When they left the wormhole behind them began to twist and collapse. It's collapsing. Lu Ming wasn't shocked. Instead, he was happy. The collapse of the wormhole meant that the enemy couldn't chase after them. This wasn't a bad thing. In fact, it was a good thing. Chapter 3372. Myriad God's cultivation level is too low. It's already a miracle that he was able to open a wormhole. It's naturally difficult for him to maintain it. Therefore, the wormhole he opened will quickly collapse. Legend has it that there are terrifying existences that can open wormholes that can last forever. They are identical to the wormholes produced by nature. Bone Fiend explained. Lu Ming was enlightened. Where is this? Lu Ming took a closer look. What he saw was a stretch of barren land. There were bare rocks everywhere. There was no vegetation at all. I have to be careful. My cultivation level is too low. Even if I open a wormhole, the distance won't be very far. Furthermore, it's difficult to control the direction. This might still be within the barbarian realm. Myriad God opened his mouth. However, after saying a few words, blood constantly flowed out of his mouth. Myriad God's injuries were too severe. His face was pale and his aura was weak. His body was covered in cracks and looked like it would disintegrate at any moment. Previously, he had suffered heavy injuries while defending against the barbarians' attack. Later on, opening a wormhole in his forte only worsened his injuries. With his cultivation level, opening a wormhole, even if it was a short distance and an uncertain wormhole, placed an immense burden on him. It exceeded his capabilities. This pressure caused Myriad God to suffer heavy injuries. Now, Myriad God no longer had the strength to continue fighting. Myriad God, recuperate in peace. Leave the rest to us. Lu Ming walked over and took out a top-grade healing pill for Myriad God to consume. After consuming the pill, Myriad God sat cross-legged and quietly circulated his energy to recuperate. As for Lu Ming, he instructed his subordinates to scout the vicinity. Some of them converged their auras and scattered in all directions. Not long after, they returned. They had landed on a planet that was barren and devoid of life. It was likely an abandoned planet. As for whether it was within the barbarian realm, it was uncertain. Lu Ming secretly heaved a sigh of relief. This was not the worst. If they had landed on a habitable planet within the barbarian realm, that would have been the worst. Finally, Lu Ming planned on staying here for a few days. They would set off when Myriad God's injuries were slightly better. Myriad God's physique was extremely terrifying. He was born from the essence blood of dozens of primordial gods. His vitality was astonishingly strong. In just a few days, his complexion had improved a lot. He had also recovered some yuan qi. The cracks on his body had more or less vanished. If it were an ordinary person, it would take at least a few months for them to recover from such severe injuries. After the All Gods recovered some of their vitality, Lu Ming and the rest left the planet. Lu Ming took out a battleship and they boarded it. This battleship was not big. Lu Ming had obtained it from the barbarians during the battle with them. At the very least, they to some extent to cover. Not long after, they discovered a planet in the distance. It was a planet with life. "I'll go investigate," Lan Shang said. "Uncle Lan, be careful. Don't worry. I'll use an array to conceal my aura. It won't be a problem if I watch from afar." Blue Merchant smiled and flew towards the planet. But not long after, Blue Merchant returned. The moment he returned, Lu Ming's heart sank. Blue Merchant's expression was very solemn. It did not look like he had discovered good news. "That habitable planet is filled with barbarians. We are in the barbarian realm," Blue Merchant said. These words made the hearts of Lu Ming and company sink. Their expressions were very solemn. Indeed, they were still in the barbarian realm. This was not good news. The territory controlled by the barbarian realm was filled with barbarians. They were not barbarians and could be recognized at a glance. How were they to escape? If they were discovered by the barbarians in the barbarian realm, it would be truly dangerous. Most importantly, they did not have a star zone map. They were like headless flies, flying everywhere. "Manor Lord, what should we do?" Some people looked pale and looked at Lu Ming. "Don't panic. We are riding in the barbarians' battleship. We can hide for a while and find a chance to find the star zone map. Then, we will leave the barbarians' territory and return to the Taishu dynasty," Lu Ming said. Seeing Lu Ming's confident face, the others also calmed down a little. "Let's leave here first. After that, don't get close to the habitable planet of the barbarian race. We will go to the remote starry sky to find a lone barbarian and seize the star zone map." Lu Ming explained the plan. Then, they drove the interstellar battleship and left this place, flying into the vast starry sky. In a star zone at the border between the barbarian race and the Taishu dynasty, there were densely packed battleships floating. Each battleship was incomparably majestic and shockingly large. Battleships hundreds of millions of miles long were everywhere. This was the barracks headquarters of the barbarian race's war against the Taishu dynasty. It was the place where Marshal Mia Su was stationed. Above the huge fleet, there was a huge palace floating. This palace was the residence of Marshal Mia Su. It moved with the army. At this time, many people were discussing things in the palace. The one sitting at the top was Marshal Mia Su. But what was surprising was that this Marshal Mia Su was not from the barbarian race. This was a middle-aged man. He was tall and burly, with a height of 3 meters. His skin was densely covered with scales, and there was a single horn between his eyebrows. This was a single-horned crocodile man. A single-horned crocodile man actually served as the barbarian race's Marshal Mia Su. This was a very strange thing. The single-horned crocodile man, who was also Marshal Mia Su, sat at the top. Below him, there were many barbarian race generals. "Marshal, I received news not long ago. I heard that a group of small fries from the Taishu dynasty rushed into our territory." Below, a barbarian general reported. "Small fries from the Taishu dynasty, what kind of cultivation base do they have?" Marshal Mia Su asked. I I heard that the highest cultivation base is only third-level divine monarch. The barbarian general reported. Boom! A terrifying aura suddenly spread out from Marshal Miasu's body. This aura was very horrifying. It was filled with a destructive aura as if it could destroy everything and crush the galaxy. Although those barbarian generals below were all existences with extremely terrifying strength, under this aura, each and every one of them trembled with fear and did not even dare to breathe loudly. All of you are trash. A group of small fries with the strongest being only third-level divine monarch. How can you let the other party enter our territory? What are you all doing? A cold voice came out from Marshal Miasu's mouth. It was murderous and bone-chilling. Marshal, I heard that among that group of people, there is a young man who can open a wormhole? That barbarian reported. But when he spoke, he himself was a little hesitant. A young man could open a wormhole? Was this possible? It was like a fantasy story. A young man can open a wormhole? Haha, you can even find such a childish reason. Do you think I am easy to bully? Marshal Miasu said coldly, his face turning even uglier. Chapter 33-73. Marshal Miasu's face turned even uglier. Those barbarian generals were trembling with fear, not daring to speak. They knew how terrifying this Marshal Miasu was. His hands were stained with the blood of countless Taishu dynasty experts. Otherwise, with his identity as a single-horned crocodile man, how could he be the Marshal? Marshal, I didn't believe it at first, but there were at least tens of thousands of people who witnessed this scene. They all swore that it was true and that the other party had used a wormhole to escape. Otherwise, they would have been wiped out long ago. The barbarian general said. Wormhole? Marshal Miasu whispered, frowning. He still found it hard to believe, but tens of thousands of people witnessed and swore, so he had to believe it. The news said that the person's cultivation is still low, only a second-layer divine lord. Even if he can open a wormhole, the distance won't be too far. It's very likely that he's in the territory of the barbarian race, or even within a few starfields at the border. Marshal, please give the order to search. The barbarian general said. Well, pass down my order. Search the entire territory. Once found, kill without mercy. Marshal Miasu ordered coldly, but after that, he continued, wait, don't kill the young man who can open a wormhole. I want him alive. I want to see what kind of monster a young man can open a wormhole. Yes. The barbarian general accepted the order and then retreated to make arrangements. At this moment, many powerful forces at the border between the barbarian race and the Taishu dynasty received the news. On a huge, skull-like planet, there was a powerful force. A scum from the Taishu dynasty has entered the territory of the barbarian race? Very well, search with all our strength and crush these ants. The leader of this force gave the order. Search with all our strength. Destroy these Taishu dynasty ants. In several starfields at the border, large and small forces began to search for Lu Ming and the others in the universe. Lu Ming and the others did not dare to get close to those life planets. They all went far away and deliberately ran to remote places. Fortunately, they were on a barbarian warship. Although they were able to bypass the life planets several times, they were still discovered by the barbarian warship. However, when they saw that they were on a barbarian warship, they thought that they were patrolling and did not check. This allowed them to escape by luck. During this period of time, they ran into barbarians who had strayed from the group and took them down. Unfortunately, they didn't manage to obtain a map of the star area, which made them sigh in regret. Just like that, they flew in the pitch-black and boundless starry sky for over 3 months. Without a map of the star field, they could only fly around aimlessly without any sense of direction. What they didn't know was that in these 3 months, not only had they not approached the Taishu dynasty, but they had also distanced themselves from the Taishu dynasty. This was because they were flying in the opposite direction, towards the center of the land of the barbarians. Fortunately, after 3 months, Wan Shen's injuries had completely healed. He had returned to his peak condition. This gave them some confidence. After all, the strength of the myriad gods was obvious to all. There's someone ahead. Suddenly, someone spoke. Through the control room of the battleship, they could see a fleet flying over from the depths of the starry sky. They could see that there were more than 10 battleships in this fleet, but they weren't very large. The longest one was about a few million miles long. Compared to the behemoths on the battlefield, they were many times weaker. However, the heartbeats of Lu Ming and the others couldn't help but accelerate. It wasn't wise to turn around and run now. Wouldn't that mean that they were guilty? It would definitely arouse the other party's suspicion. They could only grit their teeth and continue forward, hoping that the other party wouldn't investigate. Rumble. The battleship flew through the void, producing loud rumbling sounds. Soon, the two sides approached each other. The battleship in front, stop. Suddenly, a voice came from the barbarian battleship, shaking the starry sky and reaching their ears. This was definitely the voice of a divine Lord realm expert. Otherwise, it wouldn't have reached their ears through the battleship. The hearts of Lu Ming and the others sank. If the other party told them to stop, the situation didn't look good. Stop first, Lu Ming said. After that, the person controlling the battleship stopped the battleship. In front of them, more than 10 battleships fanned out and surrounded their battleship. We are searching for the people of the Taishu dynasty. Now, we want to search your battleship. We apologize for offending you. Everyone inside, come out for investigation. The voice sounded again. Oh no! Lu Ming and the others were shocked. The barbarians had already started a large-scale search for them. They obviously suspected them and wanted them to go out for investigation. Once they went out, everything would be exposed. Activate the battleship and rush over, Lu Ming ordered. Buzz. The battleship made a slight vibration sound. The large array on the surface of the battleship was activated. Dense runes appeared and shrouded the battleship. Boom! A beam of light burst out from the bow of the battleship and blasted toward the battleship in front. The other party obviously didn't expect Lu Ming and the others to suddenly launch an attack. It was too late to dodge. With a loud bang, the battleship was directly hit by the beam of light. Lu Ming's battleship was seized from the battlefield. Its power was amazing. It was definitely not something these small battleships could compare to. The battleship that was hit directly exploded and turned into a ball of fire. Lu Ming's battleship rushed over. Damn it, it's the bastards of the Taishu dynasty. Don't let them escape. Chase them. Spread the news. Loud roars came from the battleship behind them. More than 10 battleships were activated and chased after Lu Ming and the others. However, their battleships were obviously not as fast as Lu Ming's battleship. They were left behind and the distance between the two sides was increasing. However, not long after, Lu Ming and the others' hearts sank. Because in front of them, another fleet flew in their direction in a fan shape and blocked their way. Obviously, the other party had received the news and was intercepting them here. It's the people of the Taishu dynasty. Open fire. A cold voice came from the battleship in front. Boom. 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 More than 10 battleships were filled with runes and then burst out with beams of light that blasted toward Lu Ming and the others. With so many battleships attacking from different directions, Lu Ming's battleship couldn't dodge at all and was directly hit. Although the surface of Lu Ming's battleship was protected by a large array, it still shook violently. At this time, the more than 10 battleships chasing from behind had also arrived. They also burst out with beams of light that blasted toward Lu Ming and the others, causing their battleship to shake even more violently. If this continued, their battleship would be destroyed before long. "I'll go down and destroy their battleship," Wan Shen said. "We'll go too." The other Divine Lord Realm powerhouses also spoke. In such a situation, only by destroying the other party's battleship could they survive. Chapter 3374. Be careful. Lu Ming exhorted. "Don't worry." Wan Shen and the rest nodded before opening the door and charging out. The moment they charged out, their figures flashed as they dodged the enemy's beam of light and charged towards the battleships in front of them. Lu Ming had more than a dozen Divine Lord Realm experts under him. Although these battleships were huge and had boundless might, they would definitely not be able to withstand the attack of a Divine Lord. "Go out and stop them." A voice came from the enemy battleships. Following that, figures charged out from the battleships in front and behind them. They were all Divine Lord Realm experts. There were more than 20 of them in total, nearly double the number on Lu Ming's side. "Kill!" Wan Shen roared. Before he arrived, a silver river charged out, traversing the starry sky and enveloping a second-level Divine Lord Realm expert from the barbarian race. The barbarian let out a tragic cry as his body was instantly reduced to ashes. "Kill!" A third-level Divine Lord Realm barbarian wielded a giant axe as he charged at Wan Shen. Wan Shen brandished his stone spear which extended to hundreds of thousands of miles long as it traversed the starry sky. With a poochie sound, blood splattered as the barbarian race expert was pierced through, dying a violent death. How terrifying! The other barbarians were alarmed. Wan Shen's strength was too astonishing. "You guys hold them back first. I'll go destroy their battleships." Wan Shen transmitted his voice to the other Divine Lords. Following that, a pair of wings condensed behind him. This was also an Origin secret technique. With a flap of his wings, Wan Shen's figure vanished. The next moment, he appeared in front of a battleship. His stone spear rapidly enlarged and swept out. Boom! The battleship exploded as the barbarians inside flew in all directions in fear. However, the barbarians' cultivation was nearly all below the Divine Lord Realm. They were crushed by the force brought about by the stone spear, causing them to explode. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. After destroying the battleship, Wan Shen's figure moved again as he charged towards the next battleship. With a sweep of his stone spear, another battleship was destroyed. Following that, Myriad God attacked with all his might. His speed was too fast. Every time he flashed, a battleship would be destroyed. Those battleships exploded one by one. Almost in the span of a breath, 7 or 8 battleships were blown up. It was unknown how many barbarians had died in those battleships. Die! With a furious roar, a burly berserker charged towards the 10,000 gods. This barbarian was the leader of these fleets. He had 4th-level Divine Lord cultivation, his strength extremely powerful. He slashed out with his axe, and the starry sky tumbled as if the entire starry sky was about to be split apart. 4th-level Divine Lord was much stronger than 3rd-level Divine Lord. However, Myriad God's expression did not change. His eyes were filled with intense killing intent. "I don't have time to fight with you. Die!" The 10,000 gods roared as a silver river appeared and swept towards the other party. Then, a sovereign's gate appeared and suppressed the other party. Then, a stone blade, a stone sword, a stone pagoda, a pitch-black whirlpool, and a wisp of terrifying flame, Origin secret techniques, all of them were Origin secret techniques. Pantheon instantly unleashed a dozen or so Origin secret techniques, all of which rained down on his opponent. The other party had never seen such a situation before. He was scared silly and let out an incredulous roar. Then, he was drowned by the dozen or so origin secret techniques. Before he could even let out a scream, he was smashed into meat paste and his soul scattered. A fourth-level Divine Lord existence was instantly one-shot. The remaining barbarians were shocked and lost all their courage. Their confidence suffered a great blow. Even their leader, a fourth-level Divine Lord, was instantly killed. How were they to fight? Retreat, retreat, retreat. With a few loud roars, the remaining barbarian experts quickly flew back to the battleships. Then, the battleships were activated and they fled for their lives. Lu Ming called out to the all-gods, not allowing them to give chase. It was better not to pursue a cornered enemy. It would be dangerous if they encountered more powerful barbarians. This was a good opportunity to escape. After the 10,000 gods and the others boarded the battleships were activated and they left this place. A few days later, Lu Ming and the others landed on a huge meteorite. Lu Ming put away the battleships. They dug a large hole in the meteorite and planned to hide there for a while and rest. Now that the barbarians were clearly searching for them, it was more dangerous to run around. It was better to find a secret place to hide. It would be safer. They hid in the meteorite and did not believe that the barbarians could find them. After erasing their traces, they temporarily hid in the meteorite and flew aimlessly with the meteorite. In Marshal Mie Su's palace, Marshal Mie Su was discussing matters with the barbarian generals. During this period of time, the barbarians and the Taishu dynasty were constantly fighting. Both sides had suffered losses. After discussing the war, Marshal Mie Su asked, "Have you found the people from the Taishu dynasty who escaped into our territory?" "Marshal, I was just about to report this to you." The barbarian general from last time stepped forward and said, "I just received news that the ants from the Taishu dynasty are still in the barbarian stream starfield. They were discovered by our people, but they escaped again." "They escaped again? What trash!" Marshal Mie Su said coldly. He was very unhappy. "Marshal, the main thing is that we don't have many experts this time. The young man who opened the wormhole last time is too strong. It's unbelievable. The scene of the previous battle has been recorded by the Rest Shadow Stone. Marshal, please take a look." After the barbarian general finished speaking, he took out a jade talisman and inserted his divine power. The jade talisman lit up and projected an image in the air. This image was the scene of the battle between Lu Ming and the barbarians. Soon, the image changed to the battle between the 10,000 gods and the barbarians. "That's the Dark Ape Fighting Tribe." When Marshal Mie Su saw the Dark Ape Fighting Tribe, he seemed very excited. He suddenly stood up from his seat with a complicated look in his eyes. Then, his eyes flashed. No one knew what he was thinking. At this time, the others did not notice Marshal Mie Su's strange behavior because they were all attracted by the 10,000 gods. The strength of the 10,000 gods was too shocking. When Pantheon unleashed more than a dozen origin secret techniques, the entire place fell into a deathly silence. Everyone present was dumbfounded. Their faces were full of shock and their eyes were full of disbelief. One person controlling more than a dozen origin secret techniques was like a fairy tale. They were considered the upper echelons of the barbarians and had seen a lot. However, they had never heard of such a thing, let alone seen it. What kind of monster is this? After a long while, someone finally reacted. He swallowed his saliva and said in a trembling voice. This could only be described as a monster. Is this the person who opened the wormhole? Marshal Mie Su asked. Yes, it's him. Chapter 3375. It's indeed incredible. Mie Su muttered. Then, he added in his heart, the Dark Ape Fighting Tribe. How did they appear? I must get to the bottom of this matter. Of course, he did not say it out loud, so the others did not hear it. Marshal, I can't believe that there's such a monster in the Taishu dynasty. We must get rid of them. Otherwise, they'll be a threat to us. I'll send more experts to search for them. No matter where they're hiding, we must find them and kill them. The barbarian general said in a murderous tone. Wait a minute. Mia Su waved his hand and stood up. His eyes flickered and he said, Don't kill them. I want them alive. Alive? The others were confused. That's right. Among this group of people, there are such peerless geniuses. This group of people is extraordinary. If we capture them alive, it might be more valuable than killing them directly. We can make the Taishu sacred dynasty pay more, Mia Su explained. That's true, the other barbarians were also moved. That young man was too terrifying. He might be an important figure in the Taishu dynasty. If they captured him, they might be able to lure the big fish of the Taishu dynasty. That's why we should keep those people alive if we can. They might be of great use to us. Mia Su said seriously. Yes, Marshal. The barbarian general obeyed. Go, capture those people and bring them to me. Mia Su said. Soon, Mia Su's order was spread to the few star regions near the barbarian race. Continue to search for Lu Ming and the others, but do not kill them. They must be kept alive. Lu Ming and the others had been hiding in the meteorite. They drifted with the meteorite for more than a year. They did not know where they had drifted for more than a year. However, they were all above the Divine King realm. They could go into seclusion for millions of years. It was nothing for them to stay in seclusion for a year. However, something big happened in the barbarian race during this period of time. The treasure of the barbarian race, Mount Barbarian God, reappeared. Mount Barbarian God was a legendary treasure of the barbarian race, but it did not appear often. Normally, Mount Barbarian God would hide in the void and no one would be able to find it. Every once in a while, Mount Barbarian God would suddenly appear at a certain location in the starry sky. This location wasn't fixed, it would appear at a different location every time. Once it appeared, Mount Barbarian God would drift about in the galaxy. After a period of time, Mount Barbarian God would suddenly disappear. Legend had it that the ancestor of the Berserkers, the god of Berserkers, was training in isolation in Mount God of Berserkers. This would cause a strange presence to spread out from Mount God of Berserkers. As long as the Berserkers stayed far away from Mount God of Berserkers and were enveloped by the presence of Mount God of Berserkers, there was a possibility that they would gain an epiphany or even undergo a transformation and evolve into the terrifying god of Berserkers. Hence, every time Mount Barbarian God appeared, it would be a grand event for the Berserker tribe. Countless powerful Berserkers would descend upon Mount Barbarian God. This time, Mount Barbarian God appeared in the Barbarian Stream Galaxy, which was located at the border between the barbarian race and the Taishu dynasty. For a time, the winds and clouds gathered in the barbarian meteor domain. Countless barbarian powerhouses arrived. In the starry sky of the universe, an incomparably huge mountain was suspended in the air. It was a pitch-black mountain that was as big as a planet of life. It was drifting aimlessly in the starry sky. This was Mount Barbarian God. Behind and on both sides of Mount Barbarian God were a large number of powerful berserkers. Some were old, and some were young. They were moving forward with Mount Barbarian God. At the same time, they were carefully experiencing the changes in the mountain, hoping that they would be able to achieve a transformation. Of course, there were no berserkers in the direction of Mount Barbarian God. These berserkers were very far away from Mount Barbarian God. They did not dare to get close. This was because this was the god of berserkers' place of seclusion. Getting close would be a blasphemy to the god of berserkers. It would be disrespectful to the god of berserkers. In another part of the starry sky of the barbarian meteor domain, Lu Ming and the others stayed in the meteorite and continued to drift along with it. Rumble. At this moment, a violent rumble came from outside. The entire meteorite started to tremble violently. What's going on? Have we been discovered? The expressions of Lu Ming and the others changed. Rumble. Rumble. The rumble grew louder and louder. The meteorite started to tremble more and more violently. In the end, the entire meteorite exploded. A powerful force swept toward them. A few god lords from the Dark Ape combat tribe swung their fists and broke through the force. After that, they retreated frantically. However, no one continued to attack them. After they retreated a distance, they were speechless when they took a closer look. In the starry sky ahead, two huge beasts were fighting. These two wild beasts were extremely huge. Each of them was over 1,000 miles long. Roar! Roar! The wild beasts roared. Their roars shook the starry sky as they fought fiercely. Violent force swept out in all directions. These two wild beasts were first-level god lords. They did not pay any attention to Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming and the others were speechless. They were too unlucky. Just now, it wasn't because they were discovered, nor was it because someone attacked them. They were just unlucky. The meteorite just happened to drift near the two wild beasts and was shattered by the aftermath of the battle. It was really an unexpected disaster. Let's go. Let's leave quickly. Lu Ming shouted. The longer they stayed here, the easier it was for them to be discovered. Their figures flashed as they left the area where the wild beasts were fighting. They flew in another direction, intending to find another secret place to hide. Now, they could only find a place to hide. After a few hundred or 1,000 years, the barbarian tribe's search for them would weaken. Only then would they have a chance to escape from the barbarian tribe's territory and return to the Taishu dynasty. On a vital planet not far from Lu Ming and the others, there was a huge mountain peak. On the peak of this mountain, there were many array platforms. These array platforms were glowing. Dense runes appeared on them. At the same time, on these array platforms, there were images of the starry sky that were constantly changing. They've appeared. The group of small fries from the Taishu dynasty have appeared. Suddenly, a voice was heard. It was filled with excitement. Many barbarian tribe members looked in the direction of the voice. Indeed, on one of the array platforms, a picture appeared. In the picture, Lu Ming and the others were flying in the starry sky. Obviously, the barbarian tribe had set up surveillance arrays all over the starry sky. They could silently monitor the situation in the starry sky. Not long after Lu Ming and the others came out from the meteorite, they were detected by the surveillance array. Quickly report to the Lord that we found the people from the Taishu dynasty. Quickly. Soon, the news was reported. The location where Lu Ming and the others had appeared was reported in detail. The rest of the people continued to monitor. Somewhere in the starry sky. Lu Ming and the others did not know that they had been discovered. They restrained their presence and wanted to find a secret place to hide. This time, they did not plan to look for meteorites. They wanted to find a barren planet and hide inside it for a few hundred or 1,000 years. Chapter 3376. In a blink of an eye, they flew for a few days. Suddenly, rumble. Ahead, there were huge meteorites flying towards them at high speed, bringing along a terrifying force, crashing towards Lu Ming and the rest. What's going on? The faces of Lu Ming and the rest changed. Retreat! Lu Ming shouted softly, bringing people to retreat. These meteorites flew over inexplicably, giving Lu Ming a bad premonition. But when they retreated, there were also meteorites flying over from behind. At the same time, loud rumbling sounds came from the right, left, top, and bottom. Meteorites, they were all meteorites. There were meteorites flying towards them from all directions, looking like they were going to smash them into meat paste. The faces of Lu Ming and the rest changed, becoming somewhat ugly. They knew that their whereabouts had been discovered. Otherwise, it would be impossible for those meteorites to come crashing toward them from all directions. It was clear that this was man-made. Break! Lu Ming shouted. The Overlord God's spear appeared. A spear light soared into the sky, rushing towards a meteorite. Boom! Boom! The others also took action. Several thousand attacks blasted towards the meteorites in all directions, erupting with violent rumbles. Those meteorites exploded one by one, being beaten to ashes. However, the hearts of Lu Ming and the rest sank. That was because they could feel powerful auras coming from all directions behind the meteorite. Sure enough, when the smoke and dust dissipated, burly figures appeared one after another around Lu Ming and the rest. All of them were barbarians. They were surrounded. Sweeping a glance, there were at least over 100,000 barbarian army surrounding them. Especially the aura of some of them, it was really too terrifying, forming an incomparably terrifying pressure, pressing down on Lu Ming and the rest, making people's hearts turn cold. Trouble. Lu Ming and the rest silently said in their hearts. This time, it was really troublesome. The other party had too many powerhouses. There were definitely many existences that surpassed 4th-level Divine Lord. Such powerhouses were not what they could deal with. Boom! The void vibrated and a burly figure stepped out. It was a barbarian in a purple-gold battleship. His aura was wild and overbearing, as deep as the sea. He gave people a feeling that he was as majestic as a mountain. This feeling was similar to when Lu Ming faced Yuan Kong. This person was most likely an existence not weaker than Yuan Kong, someone from the Taishu dynasty. As the purple golden armored berserker opened and closed his eyes, they were filled with a ferocious aura. He swept his gaze across Lu Ming and company before finally landing on Myriad God. I'll give you a chance now. Surrender and I'll leave your corpses intact. The purple golden armored barbarian opened his mouth. His voice was as loud as a bell, and it shook the eardrums of Lu Ming and the others. Either we fight or surrender. Impossible! Lu Ming shouted. At this point, they could only fight. They would rather die in battle than surrender and be killed in humiliation. A battle? With just the few of you, what do you have to fight us? A bunch of ants, attack and take them down. The purple golden armored berserker said coldly. He then waved his hand and gave the order. Attack from the side. Lu Ming shouted. Qiuqiu transformed into a suit of armor that covered his entire body. He took the lead and charged to the right. The only thing they could do now was to gather all their strength and charge in one direction to see if they could break out. You still want to break out? Kill! On the right, a burly berserker shouted and punched out. A huge fist print blasted toward Lu Ming. The terrifying fist pressure pressed down on Lu Ming, making it difficult for Lu Ming to breathe. This was a terrifying existence in the Divine Lord realm. Battle Ancestor, be careful. On the side, an expert from the Dark Ape fighting tribe rushed up and punched out as well, colliding with the fist print of the Berserker expert. However, the Berserker expert's cultivation was obviously stronger. He directly shattered the fist energy of the Dark Ape fighting tribe. The remaining energy swept toward Lu Ming, causing his body to tremble violently. He was forced to retreat as he spat out a mouthful of blood. The existence of the Divine Lord realm was too strong. It was not something he could withstand. The difference was too great. At this moment, Lu Ming's subordinates were also fighting with the berserkers. However, there were too many berserkers and they had come prepared. It was impossible for them to deal with them. When the pressure came, Lu Ming's subordinates coughed up blood and retreated. They were seriously injured. Kill! Wanshan roared like a wild beast. His long hair fluttered as he rushed to the front. A galaxy rushed forward and swept toward the berserkers. At the same time, the Sovereign's Gate, stone spears, stone swords, stone sabers, etc., blasted forward. All of them are origin source secret techniques. The berserkers widened their eyes in shock. They had heard that there was a monster among the people of the Taishu dynasty who had mastered more than 10 origin-sourced secret techniques. However, it was one thing to hear about it and another to see it with their own eyes. Even though they had seen it with their own eyes, it was still unbelievable. Wanshan attacked with all his strength. His combat strength was too strong. He broke through the attacks of the berserkers and enveloped hundreds of them. Not good. The berserkers' expressions changed drastically as they felt the aura of death. Block it! They roared and resisted with all their strength. However, when Wanshan's attack landed, the berserkers' bodies still exploded and they died on the spot. Let's charge out together! Wanshan roared and erupted with all his strength. He was like a sharp knife that pierced forward, wanting to charge out. Don't even think about it. Kneel! At this moment, a furious roar sounded. A white-haired berserker appeared in front of Wanshan and punched out. That single punch caused the void to explode. Violent shockwaves pressed down on the myriad gods, causing the dozens of quintessent secret skills of the myriad gods to vibrate and explode. Puff! Wanshan coughed up blood and flew back with a pale face. Many people's hearts sank. The white-haired berserker was too strong. His cultivation was definitely above a 4th-level divine lord. No matter how strong Wanshan was, he was only a 2nd-level divine lord. It was difficult for him to fight across so many levels. You overestimate yourself and still want to fight back. Take them down. The purple-golden armored berserker continued to give orders coldly. The berserker army stepped forward from all directions. Their terrifying aura gathered together and pressed down on them like an iron wall. Don't even think about hurting the war ancestor. Stop them. The dark ape fighting tribe that Lu Ming had brought with him roared and transformed into giant apes. They rushed toward the berserkers. However, there were too many berserkers. A large group of berserkers attacked and the dark ape fighting tribe was no match for them. They coughed up blood and their bodies were covered in wounds. However, they fought to the death and did not retreat. They looked unyielding. Fight it out with them. At most, we will die. Those who had joined Lu Ming later were riled up. They roared and rushed toward the berserkers. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.